An automated voice echoes through the train car, announcing that passengers are headed for Sadong Station. But a subsequent announcement quickly follows, explaining that due to an accident on the station platform, train service to Sadong is no longer in operation, and all passengers must disembark. A young woman, caught off guard, questions what is happening. Frustration mounts as she realizes this means she will be late for work, the train doors hissing open to release the stranded commuters. With a sigh, Kazamiya Kahaku laments her perpetual tardiness, muttering to herself that she is late yet again. She quickly spots an exit and begins to run, hoping to find an alternative route. The cause of the disruption becomes horrifyingly clear as she passes a scene of carnage, a body on a stretcher, covered in blood, with medical personnel confirming the victim died instantly. Leaving the station, the sounds of the city begin to fade as she walks with a heavy heart. Her gaze drifting upwards, lost in thought. Her stomach lets out a loud rumble. As she sits on the ground, blood streaking her cheek, looking utterly distraught amidst scattered books, a figure approaches from behind. "Oh," she murmurs, looking up as a man with a kind, if gruff, demeanor extends a hand, asking if she's hungry, her stomach having betrayed her. She admits to being a little hungry, and he directs her down a nearby alley, assuring her their destination is close. As they walk, the man, holding a small plush toy, continues to guide her, instructing her to follow the road and turn left. He then tells her to go past the second traffic light on the right, their path illuminated by the distant glow of a daily diner sign. The two figures grow smaller as they approach the brightly lit establishment, until she stands directly before the diner, looking up at its inviting sign. She reaches for the door, and a soft jingle announces her arrival into the bustling diner. Her eyes scan the menu board, taking in the various dishes and the lively chatter of the other patrons. Nearby, a young man with blonde hair efficiently takes orders, then turns, a warm smile gracing his lips as he asks if it's her first time visiting. He moves with practiced ease, serving steaming dishes to hungry customers, while she settles into a quiet corner. The kitchen hums with activity, pots bubbling and simmering. He expertly cracks an egg into a sizzling pan, asking a colleague to attend to another table. A satisfied customer laughs heartily, clearly enjoying his meal. Seated at a table, Kahaku's attention is drawn to the meal before her, a silent call for a waiter echoing in her mind. The food looks incredible, but her stomach rumbles loudly as she eyes a bottle of sour juice, a stark contrast to the amazing dish. A hand reaches for a can, and a voice asks if she has finished eating yet. Looking down at the menu, she recalls everyone telling her to come here because she was hungry, but a new problem arises. She thinks to herself that she has no money, just as Kudo approaches with a warm smile, asking if she means money. He reassures her that it's okay and she doesn't need to pay, then asks what food she would like. With a confident, "Of course," he ponders how he keeps customers coming when he doesn't take money. As he rhythmically chops vegetables, he realizes the business is actually doing surprisingly well. Soon, the ingredients sizzle and dance in a hot pan, transforming into a delicious meal. A soft whoosh of air accompanies the silent passage of time, marked by a clock frozen at 4:30, as if signaling a moment quite unlike the sweet taste of chocolate. The deep vroom of an engine cuts through the stillness, as the clock's hands remain fixed, a silent witness to the early hours. And a man, panting softly, navigates the empty streets, driving through the late night when everyone else is deep in slumber. His truck rumbles with a steady vroom, a solitary presence moving through the towering city landscape. Later, the same man holds a mug of coffee, his watch confirming the hour of 4:30, as he gazes out at the city lights, a quiet observer. A gentle flutter of unseen wings or particles drifts through the air, in the space just before dawn, illuminated by the lonely glow of streetlights. Suddenly, a woman in a bloodied white dress plummets through the darkness, surrounded by glowing motes, as a chilling truth echoes. Soon, those who slumber in the shadows will awaken and swarm towards the light. The glowing particles intensify, cascading through the void like a celestial shower. Above a sprawling city, a complex array of gears turns with silent precision, as a man in a suit looks up, contemplating a world that might have been long forgotten. This world, it seems, was forged specifically for those who carry heavy burdens and walk alone. With a soft tap, a figure steps into an unseen space. The sound of movement echoes through a quiet kitchen as a voice asks if the kitchen is still open. A plate of perfectly cooked rice and a fried egg is presented. As the diner's owner, holding a pan, greets the newcomer with a warm welcome. His smile is genuine, a beacon of warmth in the quiet establishment. Yet, amidst the mundane, a shimmering, ethereal glow suggests that this place is far more than it seems, a realm where reality itself might bend. Under the blazing sun, a towering construction site gleams, a testament to relentless labor. With a dull thud, a stack of bills lands on a surface, the tangible result of countless hours. But even with the pay, a deep sigh escapes the worker, his body aching from the effort. The elevator remains broken, forcing him to climb the endless ladders, each step accompanied by the drip and drop of sweat. His face, slick with perspiration, reveals the exhaustion of Lee Kang-jin, a 28-year-old man pushing his limits. He endures manual labor through the sweltering Korean summer, where temperatures consistently reach 35 degrees Celsius. Checking his phone, he sees today's pay of 140,000 won, approximately $117, deposited into his account. A wave of weariness washes over him as he stares at the balance, knowing it's not enough. Calculating his living expenses, he realizes he needs over 1,000,000 won more, meaning he'll have to work regularly for another 3 months just to get by. Stretching his body, Lee Kong-jin attempts to shake off the lingering fatigue from his demanding work. He collapses back onto his bed, muttering to himself that a quick nap is essential before heading to his next part-time job. But his rest is cut short by the insistent ring of his phone, prompting a frustrated sigh about the constant interruptions. Answering with a weary hello, he preemptively dismisses what he assumes is another telemarketing call, listing off all the things he doesn't need. However, the caller's next words, asking if they're speaking to Mr. Lee Kong-jin and identifying themselves as a lawyer, immediately pique his confusion. Sitting up, he confirms his identity, but a wave of suspicion washes over him as he wonders why a lawyer would be calling him. The lawyer assures him he's free to decline, but insists there's something important they need to discuss in person. Considering the unexpected proposition, Lee Kong-jin's expression turns serious, weighing the implications of such a meeting. Finally, he agrees to the meeting, noting the location is the bustling heart of Gangnam. The mysterious caller's voice promises a pleasant surprise, assuring him they'll meet soon, before the line disconnects with a soft beep. He stares at his phone, a mix of annoyance and disbelief on his face, protesting that he hadn't even agreed to go yet. Arriving at the bustling street in Gangnam, he can't shake the feeling that something is off, wondering if this whole proposition, $1,000,000 for signing a contract to buy a building, is nothing more than an elaborate scam. A voice cuts through his thoughts, asking if he is indeed Mr. Lee Kong-jin. A hand extends, offering a sleek business card. The man behind the card introduces himself with a pleasant smile, confirming he is Seo Jibuk, the lawyer who called earlier. Lee Kong-jin takes the card, his mind racing, as he tries to recall the name Seo Jibuk, finding it unfamiliar, yet acknowledging the professional appearance of the card suggests legitimacy. Still processing the unexpected meeting, he asks the lawyer what he wanted to discuss. The man in the suit, Seo Jibuk, begins to explain with a calm demeanor, hinting at a surprising revelation. But Lee Kong-jin, confused, doesn't recognize the name mentioned. Seo Jibuk's gaze sharpens as he delivers the shocking news. Madam Kim Bok-rae has left you, Mr. Lee Kong-jin. The lawyer's words hang in the air, followed by the revelation of a building valued at 8.2 billion won. The sheer scale of the number causes him to collapse onto the pavement, utterly stunned, only able to utter a small sound of disbelief. Seo Jibuk helps him up, yet he can only stammer, trying to comprehend the figure. His eyes wide with disbelief as he shouts the impossible sum. The lawyer confirms the amount, while the stunned man can only repeat the staggering number, his mind reeling. He grapples with the impossible news, his mind reeling with questions about what could possibly be happening. Meanwhile, the lawyer, Seo Jibuk, waits patiently, offering a hesitant as if unsure how to proceed. Lee Kong-jin finally finds his voice, insisting that the lawyer must have the wrong person. He internally reiterates his confusion, having never even heard the name Kim Bok-rae before. Pulling his cap lower, he reflects on his past, recalling how he lost contact with all his relatives after his parents passed away. Therefore, there simply couldn't be anyone left to leave him an inheritance. He looks directly at Seo Jibuk, firmly stating that the lawyer must have mistaken him for someone with the same name and should seek out a different Lee Kong-jin. Seo Jibuk remains silent, his expression unreadable. At 28 years old, Lee Kong-jin had lived at the Hukdong orphanage since his parents passed away when he was 7. He explains that after leaving the orphanage, Lee Kong-jin became a brilliant student, currently in his second year studying psychology at Hankook University. Lee Kong-jin's eyes widen in surprise, hearing about his great-great-grandmother, a woman he considers practically a stranger, and he wonders why he's only hearing about her now. The lawyer apologizes for the sudden revelation, assuring him that all information regarding Madam Kim Bok-rae's inheritance is public, but he insists on discretion, suggesting they discuss the details in a more private setting. With a gesture towards the door, the lawyer suggests they head upstairs, leaving Lee Kong-jin utterly confused. He questions the destination, upstairs. The two men arrive at a modest building, its ground floor occupied by a bustling diner, while the upper floors appear to be residential. Inside, the diner's first floor is clean and orderly, with tables and chairs neatly arranged. As they ascend the stairs, the lawyer clarifies that the second floor is a residence, leading the way with a confident stride. Lee Kong-jin looks around the apartment, realizing it sits directly above the diner, and wonders if someone else had rented it out. He learns that the second-floor apartment is also his, available for immediate move-in, though the property itself won't officially transfer for another 5 years. That seems like a long time to him, and he hasn't even agreed to accept any of this yet. The document states that if he doesn't accept, the building will automatically be donated and made public property. He's taken aback, as the inheritance further stipulates that he must operate the diner on the first floor for those 5 years. But he has no idea how to cook, wondering what will happen if he goes out of business. The regulation doesn't specify who should run it, Seo Jibuk calmly clarifies, while Lee Kong-jin continues to fret about not receiving anything if he rejects it. and how he could possibly afford to run a business. Once he accepts the inheritance and signs the contract, a loan associated with managing the diner, covering labor and operation, will be sponsored by the donor, Co. Jibik explains, presenting another document for him to examine. Groaning, he takes the incredibly detailed document, clearly overwhelmed by its contents. If he's suspicious of the arrangement, he's always free to donate it to the public. He can hardly believe the terms, thinking, of course I'm suspicious. Who could believe this? The idea of such a fortune falling to someone like him, an orphan with nothing, seems too good to be true. Sweat beads on his forehead as he considers the sheer effort required. I'd have to work every day for 5 years just to even come close to earning that much. His suspicion deepens, the contract feeling like a trick. No, it is not. He meticulously flips through the pages, determined to find the catch. I should still look through the contract several times. Are there any special conditions? I mean, because... As he continues to read, the lawyer watches him calmly, revealing that there are indeed a few conditions. The contract details specific rules for operating the restaurant, including opening hours, closure days, and customer payment methods, which strike him as unusually restrictive. He ponders the implications, wondering, so it seems like it's a trap? And what's with these just 2 rules? I'm supposed to run the restaurant under these conditions. A frustrated groan escapes him, while the lawyer offers a subtle, knowing smile. He finally puts pen to paper, his signature a decisive scratch across the document. As the ink dries, the man across from him instructs, then please sign here. We'll meet again tomorrow. He can only wonder, tomorrow? He finishes the last stroke, a quiet resignation settling over him, telling himself it can't be a scam if there's a proper contract. His name now officially bound to the agreement. He rationalizes that he has nothing left to lose anyway. But as he glances over the fine print, a specific clause catches his eye, detailing that he must open and operate the agreed restaurant. A cold dread washes over him as he reads the next line. Should you break the rules written in the contract at any time, you shall forfeit your right to the inheritance. The lawyer's voice cuts through his shock. I'll be in on you from time to time. He can only manage a week. Okay. With a creak of the door, he steps out, the weight of the contract heavy on his shoulders. His footsteps echo with a dull thud, leaving the office behind. Then that means, this place is his home for the next 5 years, right? He sighs, the weight of the contract settling in as he looks out at the city lights. A soft clack echoes, perhaps from his own thoughts. Suddenly, a realization dawns on him. Oh, the ingredients are already stocked. He wonders, they opened until yesterday? Surveying the perfectly ready kitchen, he laments, everything's perfectly ready, except me. Lee Kong-jin, a 20-year-old student, feels the immense pressure, thinking, I can't just abandon my studies and work hard here to the point of collapse. As he moves, something drops to the floor with a thud, making him question, huh? He stares at the old, tabbed journal, wondering, where did this come from? Lee Kong-jin examines the mysterious journal, realizing it contains a trove of recipes, all neatly typed. Flipping through the pages, he spots dishes like garlic paste and shrimp roe rice bowl. A blush creeps up his neck as he considers, maybe I'll try some of them out for practice. The journal seems to hum with energy as he lands on a recipe for kimchi pop, quickly dismissing any notion of hunger. Yet, a moment later, he pauses, questioning his own appetite as the words on the page appear to shift and dance. His gaze settles on garlic pork bibimbap, a dish he decides to attempt. With a surge of determination, a vibrant aura of energy erupts around him in the kitchen, swirling around his feet as he prepares to cook. He begins by seasoning pork with salt and pepper, then adds oil to a hot wok. As the mysterious energy courses through him, Lee Kong-jin's hands move with an unexpected precision, dropping fragrant garlic into the sizzling oil, then swiftly incorporating lime into the mixture as he stir-fries the ingredients, a vibrant, glowing aura surrounding the wok. In mere moments, the dish is complete, a perfectly garnished garlic pork stir-fry with a dash of fresh lime. Staring at his creation, he can barely believe his own skill, wondering if he's a natural at cooking, especially since his hands seem to move on their own, guided by an unseen force as he shook the pan. The dish looks decent enough, he muses, now for the true test, the taste. He brings a mouthful to his lips, and a wave of pure delight washes over him. It's absolutely delicious. Chewing slowly, a profound surprise settles in, as he questions how simply following a recipe could yield such an incredible flavor. Could his hands clench around a knife, poised and ready to begin? A sudden jingle of a bell makes him look up, surprised by the late hour. Lee Kong-jin stands by, holding an apron, as Kuda quickly decides, they're open for business. Tying his apron, Kuda gathers his resolve, a faint glow of determination around him. He stands firm, ready to welcome the very first customer. A soft step draws his attention, and he begins to greet the newcomer. A woman in a beautiful, flowing traditional Korean dress enters. Kuda's gaze falls upon her elegant hanbok. Still somewhat dazed, he manages a hesitant welcome, asking if she will be dining alone. The mysterious woman, her red eyes piercing, simply utters a single word. Her voice then commands, fetch me a bottle of soju. A young woman's voice cuts through the restaurant's ambient noise, demanding a bottle of soju. Narumi Kuda, startled by the request, can only manage a confused, huh? The woman's voice sharpens, repeating her order. Did you not hear me? Bring me some soju. As a bottle is placed on the table before Kazumiya Kahaku. Kuda observes her, his thoughts racing. No matter how he looks at it, she's clearly a high schooler, yet she's boldly demanding alcohol, speaking like an adult. He wonders exactly how old she is. A sudden memory flashes through his mind, a past mistake where he served alcohol to a minor without checking their ID, an incident that ultimately led to that restaurant having to shut down for a month. He recalls the scene, the past worker, looking distraught, being confronted by police officers. He remembers the teenagers reporting it to the police, unsure if they just wanted a free meal. A fiery resolve ignites within him. He won't make the same mistake twice. With a polite but firm tone, Kuda addresses Kahaku. Excuse me, ma'am. I'm so sorry, but may I see your ID card? Maintaining his polite but firm stance, Kuda asks for identification, a driver's license or passport. Kahaku responds, looking surprised, that she doesn't have any. He apologizes, explaining that even with payment, he cannot serve her without proper ID, a bead of sweat forming on his temple. She stares at him, her expression unreadable. Then, with a sudden shift, she declares she has no money either, demanding he hurry and fetch her the soju. Kuda is bewildered, wondering what kind of customer she is. She looks away, a subtle expression on her face. Leaning forward, Kahaku tells him he doesn't seem to know this place very well. Kuda stammers that he knows the rules, but she counters, mentioning a subscribing contract, with a clause that allows customers to be served even without money, leaving him utterly confused. He finds himself caught in a strange loop, as the girl insists she has no money, yet still expects service. His mind races, recalling the lawyer's words about handling things directly with the head office, a statement that now feels suspicious. That lawyer never actually said such a thing. He realizes, a chilling thought forming. Could this be a setup, an attempt to manipulate him into doing something illicit? He wishes he could dismiss the idea, but the lawyer's reputation for prioritizing money above all else makes him wary, a trait that has always defined him. Meanwhile, the girl's patience wears thin, her voice cutting through his thoughts with an impatient demand for soju. A sudden, smug expression on the lawyer's face in his memory sends a jolt of alarm through him, a silent confirmation of his growing unease. Kuda stares down at the floor, a growing sense of unease settling over him as he wonders what exactly is happening. Meanwhile, Kahaku gulps down the soju, a satisfied sigh escaping her lips as the alcohol hits the spot. Kuda cries out in alarm, unable to believe she's just taking out the soju by herself. He watches in disbelief as bottle after bottle is emptied, realizing she's had far too much. A cold dread washes over him at the thought of being reported to the police. Despair washes over him, the terrifying realization hitting that his new restaurant could be shut down for 2 months, all on his very first day. He lunges forward, grabbing her arm, determined to send her home before any more trouble arises. Kahaku, slightly dazed, simply murmurs about feeling alive. Kuda stares, utterly bewildered by her reaction. Unperturbed, she simply takes another long swig directly from the bottle. He can only think about the money, or rather, the lack of it. As he turns to address the customer, a question about her age catches him off guard. His mind races, realizing this isn't just any customer, but the very same girl who caused trouble before, now with a mischievous smile. Before he can react, a new figure steps forward, introducing himself as Seo Jibik from JS Financial Group. The name sends a jolt through him, as he recognizes it from the news, a powerful financial group he'd only ever heard about. He tries to process the situation, wondering why such an important person would visit his small establishment, especially with a high school student. Overwhelmed, he bows deeply, offering a respectful greeting to the unexpected guest. Despite the formal introduction, his mind keeps returning to the girl's youthful appearance, a stark contrast to the man's powerful presence. Seo Jibik laughs, seemingly amused by Kuda's reaction, and assures him that everything is fine, relieving some of the tension. Still reeling from the unexpected visit, he finds himself questioned by the businessman, who asks if he truly understands who he is, or if he received a proper explanation. The man dismisses Kuda's hesitant reply about rules and regulations as insufficient, remarking that he seems to have arrived far too early. With a smooth gesture, he produces a business card, offering it as a more concrete introduction. Kuda, flustered, accepts the card, as the businessman promises to return shortly. Leaning in conspiratorially, the man whispers a cryptic warning, telling Kuda not to believe everything he sees. Kahaku, now visible and clearly impatient, urges them to leave, complaining about the slow employees and her own perceived slowness as a boss, to which the businessman playfully agrees. She thanks Kuda for the meal, despite his restaurant not yet having customers, while the businessman reassures him that all of Seoul is eagerly awaiting the delicious food from his establishment. Taking Kahaku's hand, the businessman leads her away, promising that everyone will be waiting for dinner. As they depart, he muses about Madame Kim Bokri's discerning eye, confirming her reputation as the best in the business. Still reeling from the encounter, Kuda looks around the bustling restaurant, wondering what kind of establishment this truly is, filled with so many people. A slight smile playing on his lips, Seo Jibik remarks that it's a refreshing change of pace for him, letting out a soft chuckle. As he and Kahaku begin to step away, he casually asks if he can order a buckwheat jelly dish and some braised pork for the following day. He clarifies that it's for a company dinner, implying a significant order. The prospect of such a large order makes Kuta's face light up, a beaming smile spreading across his features as he exclaims his delight. But before he can even finish his thought, Seo Jibik and Kahaku are already bowing and departing, leaving Kuta to utter a confused huh? He stares at the empty space where they stood, realizing they've vanished in an instant. Looking out at the city lights, he can only wonder how they managed to leave so quickly. He watches as Kahaku, now wearing a different outfit, offers a playful jab, noting how long it's been since she last saw him in his apron and teasing him about gaining weight. Meanwhile, the city outside hums with life, the streets bustling at midnight on a Friday, while a quieter alley echoes with the faint sounds of chatter. Back in his own establishment, Kuta slumps over a table, the silence of his empty restaurant a stark contrast to the outside world, wondering why no customers have arrived. A small, self-deprecating smile touches his lips as he considers if the diner's age is to blame. Suddenly, the familiar jingle of the door announces new arrivals, and Kuta looks up in surprise as Kahaku and a light-haired girl step inside, Kahaku immediately declaring she smells garlic. The light-haired girl, beaming, confirms that the restaurant is indeed open. Now joined by two more friends, one with dark hair, another with vibrant green, Kahaku confidently places their order, requesting the garlic dinner and emphasizing not to skimp on anything. Overwhelmed but eager, Kuta welcomes them, while one of the girls, now seated, remarks on how delicious everything smells. Suddenly, a blinding, crackling burst of energy erupts, filling the space with an intense, magical glow. He stands behind the counter, listening as a customer asks if the diner's owner has changed, to which he replies that he's taking over starting today. A smirk plays on Kahaku's lips as she tells him, it looks like he has a bumpy road ahead. He turns, a puzzled expression on his face, wondering what she could possibly mean by such an ominous statement. His thoughts race, questioning why there would be surprises. He glances at the other customers, noticing the new arrivals. As he carries a tray, he realizes these aren't ordinary people. A slight smile touches his lips, wondering if they might be celebrities or something. The three female companions share a chilling smirk, a low, unsettling chuckle escaping them. Their faces twist into wide, unsettling grins, eyes glowing with an intense, malevolent red light. A shiver runs down his spine as he questions the strange atmosphere, a chilling premonition settling over him. Meanwhile, the girls giggle amongst themselves, with Kazumiya Kahaku playfully warning her companions to stop teasing him before he has a heart attack, while he can only manage a small, strained sound of acknowledgement. Trying to regain his composure, he confirms their order for 2 sojas, serving them with a forced smile. The earlier joke still sends goosebumps across his skin, yet as he places the small dishes on the table, he tries to convince himself that they are just normal, fun customers. With a final clack of dishes, he presents the 3 garlic dishes they ordered, inviting them to enjoy their meal. The short-haired girl immediately digs in, exclaiming her delight at the rich garlic flavor. Kazumiya Kahaku finds it equally delicious, while the white-haired girl offers a more reserved, well, it's not bad, assessment. Soon, the table is littered with empty dishes and bottles, as one of the girls sighs contentedly, declaring the meal delish. As the short-haired girl rises from her seat, he wonders what will happen next. He couldn't shake the unsettling feeling, especially with the bill still unpaid. Then, the black-haired girl, Kahaku, spoke plainly, declaring they had no money. Her companion, a white-haired girl, casually slipped her hand into her pocket, as if the situation were entirely normal. Kuta's eyes widened in disbelief, a familiar exasperation washing over him. Before he could react, Kahaku grabbed her friend's arm, urging her to hurry as they dashed towards the exit, claiming it was getting late. He sprang into action, shouting after them, reminding them they still needed to pay for their meal. The white-haired girl paused, turning her head slightly, and with an innocent gaze, asked if he needed money. Her simple question left Kuta stunned, his mind reeling from the absurdity, as a string of numbers flashed through his thoughts. As the white-haired girl continued to walk away, a faint red aura shimmered around her, leaving Kuta to stare after her in bewildered silence. As the white-haired girl's eyes glow with an ominous red light, she cryptically warns against believing everything one sees, her words echoing with an unsettling certainty. Her gaze remains intense, as she reiterates her warning, leaving Kuta to ponder the true meaning behind her words. Then, with a swift, almost imperceptible motion, she taps a card against Kuta's outstretched hand, a faint, shimmering energy briefly visible around her fingers. A moment of stunned silence passes, before Kuta, bewildered by the strange encounter, can only manage a confused, "That mean?" But before he can finish his thought, the 2 girls are simply gone, vanished without a trace, leaving him alone in the restaurant, utterly dumbfounded. His frustration boiling over, he rushes outside, shouting up at the towering city buildings, demanding they pay for their meal. In the bustling city, a young man reflects on his current situation, thinking that acting blind to certain truths is acceptable, as long as he follows the script. Back in the quiet of a diner kitchen, Narumi Kuta diligently wipes down the surfaces, preparing for the day ahead. He consults a recipe book, muttering to himself that it's time to start cooking. Flipping through the pages, he considers his predicament. Having to manage both cooking and serving alone, he needs something quick to prepare. His eyes land on a familiar dish, deciding that kimchi jjigae, kimchi fried rice, and spicy pork rice bowl should be sufficient for the day. But as he looks closer at the recipe, a strange blue glow emanates from the letters, making them feel unusually vivid. A sudden whoosh of energy erupts from the book, blinding him with bright white particles as he recoils in shock. As the light fades, his right eye begins to glow a vibrant red, a new, mysterious power having just manifested within him. He stares at the recipe book, a strange feeling washing over him, as if something is watching him from within its pages. A quiet nick sound accompanies his thought, wondering if there's something fundamentally wrong with the book itself. Suddenly, a blinding flash erupts from the book, and his right eye flares with an ominous red glow. A powerful shing of energy radiates from his body, overwhelming his senses. He instinctively makes a chop motion, green energy trails following his hand. Amidst the chaos, he can only think that something is definitely weird, and he's not sure how good he is at cooking anymore. The recipe book, now glowing with a vibrant red aura, seems to be the source of it all, a tosk sound echoing as he tries to comprehend the situation. A swish of movement as he collapses to the floor, still clutching the book, unsure of what to do next. He can't be sure yet, but he knows he has to try something, as the book now displays incredibly complex recipes, far beyond his current skill, like Royal Donaji Japanese. He stares intently at the recipe book, a challenging dish laid out before him. I can tell it's a difficult dish just from the name, he muses, wondering if simply reading the instructions is truly enough to master it. Suddenly, a perfectly prepared dish of pasta appears before him, its aroma overwhelming. "Oh my God!" he exclaims, utterly stunned by his own creation. His eyes widen in disbelief, a surge of blue energy crackling around him as it's true. He realizes, a profound understanding dawning. I can make food. Later, Narumi Kuda samples the dish, chewing thoughtfully. But it needs to be delicious if I'm going to sell it, he thinks, determined to perfect it. Let's see. A gentle hand pats his head. As Kazamiya Kahaku continues to pat his head, observing him with a curious expression while he eats. "Why you mean you're going to sell this?" she asks, her voice tinged with surprise. A close-up on his hand, holding chopsticks, as he continues to eat, and she warns him softly. "Chew slowly, you're going to choke." He looks down at the recipe book, a new resolve in his eyes. "Now," he murmurs, ready for the next step. He savors the taste of the dish he just prepared, a complex meal that, despite its difficulty, had come together with surprising ease, though it had still taken him some time. Snapping himself out of his reverie, he chastises himself, realizing this is no time to get emotional. Looking at the magical recipe book, Kuda wonders about its previous owner, Hadma, and how she ever conceived of such intricate recipes. He reflects on the strange occurrences since his arrival, a series of bizarre events that seem to be linked to the book, manifesting as ethereal, glowing figures. The book allows him to cook any sweet dish just by reading it, but he recalls the white-haired girl, her eyes glowing with an intense blue light, lamenting that his customers have no money. Her form wreathed in a faint red aura, she had spoken ominous words to him. He also remembers being told not to rely on the book, and the unsettling presence of a lawyer, Seo Jibuk, who seems to be constantly watching him. With a thoughtful expression, Kuda can't decide if this magical book, Kami's inheritance, is a blessing or a curse. Suddenly, the door bursts open, and Kazamiya Kahaku greets him with a cheerful hello there, startling him. He finds himself face-to-face with a burly man who questions if he's the new owner, introducing himself as Mr. Shin and remarking on Kuda's youth, leaving Kuda confused about who this Mr. Shin is, and who his brother might be. The man clarifies, identifying himself as Shin Soo-hyun, the food supplier, and introducing his younger brother, Shin Do, as they both offer a polite greeting. Shin Soo-hyun then exclaims that the two brothers look nothing like the previous owner, adding with a chuckle that Kuda must have too many customers. Kuda, surprised, asks how he could tell, to which Shin Soo-hyun explains he'd been stocking the place for a long time and could tell with just a glance. He continues, recalling that Madam Kim, the previous owner, was like a mother to him, and that he considers the shop a second home. With a firm grip on Kuda's collar, Shin Soo-hyun urges him to take good care of the store, promising to help with anything he needs, leaving Kuda utterly bewildered. Shin Soo-hyun expresses his peace of mind at Kuda's answer, then asks about his first day of business, to which Kuda laments that nothing special happened, apart from customers who had no money. Kuda questions if his restaurant is some kind of soup kitchen, wondering how he's supposed to keep it running at a loss. He then raises his fist in determination, vowing to make the restaurant a success, believing he can achieve much with a bit of effort. He sighs, the weight of his financial reality pressing down on him. Soo-hyun then asks if he's heard of the JS Financial Group, to which Kuda admits he couldn't find anything about them online. Soo-hyun explains that not everyone knows about them, describing them as a shadow financial company. Kuda, walking alongside Soo-hyun and his brother, Shin-do, wonders aloud about the purpose of money if one dies, questioning why anyone would do business with such an organization. He then asks what would happen if they went under. A cascade of golden coins tumbles down, symbolizing the vast wealth involved. Soo-hyun clarifies that they might actually hit the jackpot if the economy gets distracted, a thought that makes Kuda laugh in agreement, before Soo-hyun declares he has no further questions. He concludes by telling Kuda to feel free to call them if he has any more questions, while his brother bows respectfully, and Kuda, still processing, simply agrees. Soo-hyun suggests they go see her later, but Kuda, despite being busy today, insists they should still go. Soo-hyun claps Kuda on the shoulder, confirming their agreement. His thoughts drift to the unnamed woman, wondering if he should visit her grave as well. A sudden realization dawns on him, his wide smile quickly fading as he remembers the Shin brothers had skillfully evaded all his inquiries. The green truck speeds away, leaving him alone with his unanswered questions. Even with his family covering all his expenses, including living costs and tuition, Narumi Kuda knows he needs to save some emergency cash, just in case. That's why he started opening his own little place, even crafting a new menu to draw in customers. Yet, despite his efforts, the diner remains completely empty. While the neighboring establishments are bustling with patrons, his own diner is so quiet. Only flies seem to visit, a fact that fills him with utter frustration. Suddenly, a spark of determination ignites within him. He'll cook something so fragrant, the aroma alone will draw in customers. As the clock ticks past 9, the kitchen fills with the enticing sizzle of cooking food. The minutes continue to tick by, slowly approaching 10. Finally, the bell above the door jingles, announcing the arrival of his very first customer, prompting a cheerful welcome. A young boy slides through the entrance, looking around the empty diner with curiosity. He spots a small figure, a young boy, standing hesitantly in his empty diner, wondering if the child is truly on his own. The boy, looking up, meekly asks for a spicy pork rice bowl, prompting Kuda to gently inquire if he's alone. A quiet nod is his only answer, leaving Kuda to ponder why a child would be out by himself in the middle of Gangnam at this hour. Pushing aside his concerns, he declares the order is coming right up, and the kitchen bursts into a fiery blaze as he begins to cook. Soon, a vibrant spicy pork rice bowl, accompanied by a perfectly rolled omelette, is presented with a satisfying clatter. Kuda watches as the boy, now seated, begins to eat. With a quick scoop, the boy takes a large bite, savoring the flavors. Observing the speed at which the food disappears, Kuda realizes the child must have been truly hungry. The rhythmic clack of the spoon against the bowl continues, a testament to the boy's ravenous appetite. As the young customer continued to devour his meal, Kuda, watching him eat, offered more pork, urging him to take his time. He couldn't help but notice the boy's intense focus on the spicy pork stir-fry, a dish he seemed to truly relish. A wave of nostalgia washed over Kuda, remembering how this very dish had been his own favorite growing up, especially when paired with a warm bowl of rice. The boy continued to eat, finishing the last grains of rice with unwavering dedication. And Kuda found himself thinking that the stir-fried pork tasted exactly like his mother used to make it, a taste he truly missed. The boy munched on, his small mouth full, a sniffle escaping him as tears welled in his eyes. Kuda's expression shifted to one of surprise and concern, watching the boy openly weep. With a soft sigh, he murmured, "Oh, buddy." Tears streamed down the boy's face, one by one, splashing onto the table as he sobs uncontrollably. Looking down at him, Kuda asks why he's crying, and the boy, looking up with tear-filled eyes, whispers for his mom, confessing how much he misses her. Kuda kneels, offering a comforting presence, assuring the boy he'll be right there and can come over whenever he wants something to eat. Overwhelmed by the unexpected kindness, the boy trembles, his small frame shaking with emotion. He looks up, asking Kuda where his mother is, then, with a quiet step, thanks him before turning to leave. As the boy walks away, ripples spread from his feet, a silent declaration that this is where he needs to be now. Suddenly, a brilliant white aura erupts around him, his eyes glowing with an ethereal light, as he calls out one last heartfelt, "Thank you, mister." A flash of light fills the air, leaving Kuda stunned amidst shimmering particles. He covers his mouth, his expression one of utter disbelief, struggling to comprehend what he just witnessed. As the last shimmering particles of light faded, a soft flutter echoed through the empty restaurant, and a bewildered "Huh" escaped him. He was left utterly bewildered. Spinning around, he searched the now vacant space, the realization hitting him. The boy had simply vanished. But then, a crisp slap cut through the silence, and a foreign object materialized in his hand, startling him with an ack. It was a check, and his eyes widened in disbelief as he read the staggering amount, 1,000,000 won. He couldn't comprehend what had just transpired, questioning if his mind was playing tricks on him, if he had imagined the entire encounter. A disembodied voice, however, cut through his confusion, correcting his assumption. He hadn't witnessed a ghost's departure, but rather, the profound happiness of one. The mysterious entity, shrouded in shadow with eyes glowing crimson, seemed to confirm this otherworldly explanation. Still reeling from the impossible events, Kuda could only stand in his restaurant, utterly perplexed. Still reeling from the impossible disappearance, Kuda confronts the man he believes to be Mr. Shin, demanding to know when he arrived, though he quickly dismisses the question as unimportant. He presses further, asking how a check for 1,000,000 won could simply materialize out of thin air, as the man calmly slams his hand down on the counter. Kuda, utterly exasperated, demands to know what is truly happening. Suddenly, the familiar diner vanishes, replaced by an ethereal, dark expanse where the white-haired girl appears before him, her gaze meeting his as he desperately asks about his friends. Completely disoriented by the abrupt change in scenery, Kuda questions the nature of this new place, unaware that the man with glasses observes him from a distance. A disembodied voice echoes through the void, revealing that this mysterious location is the very border between the living and the dead, the fabled afterlife diner. Meanwhile, the man with glasses looks down into a dark abyss, where a horde of monstrous, glowing-eyed creatures writhe below him. Back in the diner, Kuda stands alone amidst towering bookshelves, the entire space bathed in an eerie, pulsing blue light. As the man calmly wiped the glass, he continued his explanation, expecting Kuda to understand the implications by now. But Kuda could only stagger back, his mind reeling from the shocking revelation. Seo Jibuk noted his reaction, knowing the truth would be hard to accept, as Kuda struggled to articulate the terrifying conclusion he was drawing. With a calm, almost casual tone, Jibuk confirmed that his restaurant indeed served ghosts, just like living people. He explained that they came to replenish their souls, seeking the comfort of the food they once enjoyed. Kuda's gaze fell upon a bottle, as Jibuk added that some sought warmth by drinking alcohol. Kuda, still grappling with the concept, voiced his concern about dangerous spirits, but Jibuk dismissed his worries with a slight smirk, assuring him that ghosts would never harm anyone he brought here. He continued, explaining that if Kuda were to be harmed, he would feel quite guilty, a small, fluffy white dog at his feet puffing contentedly, making Kuda wonder if he'd just been compared to a pet. The thought, combined with the unsettling revelations, sent a shiver down Kuda's spine. He questions Kuda, his voice sharp, asking if he truly finds ghosts scarier than people, his intense gaze fixed on the young man. Kuda swallows hard, but before he can respond, Jibuk grabs his head, chastising him for his lack of common sense and warning him not to miss work, lest he incur his wrath. Reflecting on the people in his life, Kuda realizes they have been far more terrifying than any ghost, concluding he has nothing to fear, especially with Mr. Shin's word of protection. Jibuk, however, clarifies that his protection only extends to the ghosts people fear, not the people themselves, instructing Kuda to focus solely on the diner, to which he dutifully agrees. Nerumi Kuda taps away at his phone, searching for answers, the screen displaying the word ghosts in the search bar. He mumbles to himself, struggling to reconcile the existence of spirits with a world advanced enough for drone deliveries. The information on his screen explains that a ghost is the existence of a person left behind after death, illustrated by a shadowy figure with a faint halo. It continues, stating that those with unfinished business or strong regrets become ghosts, while the opposite creates good spirits, before posing the question of how to exorcise them. A stylized illustration of a red-robed figure holding a bowl accompanies the text, which reveals that ghosts are anomalies that feed on the color of the world. Still engrossed, the young man has moved to the floor, the red-robed figure from his research now looming in the background of his thoughts. The final piece of information he reads suggests that one can welcome and refresh spirits, allowing them to leave on their own. Biting his lip, Kuda can't help but admit that despite all the knowledge, ghosts are still pretty scary. A dark, shadowy presence looms, its single eye glowing ominously amidst tendrils of red and black. Still reeling from his research, Kuda wonders aloud if he will truly be okay after learning so much about the supernatural. He shakes his head, trying to dispel the unsettling thoughts, telling himself not to dwell on anything scary. Despite his fear, he recalls that while exorcists deal with spirits, he's never heard of them harming the living, though he concedes that one can never be too careful, deciding to make some red bean jelly just in case. The red bean jelly begins to bubble and boil, and as he watches it, he can't help but wonder if the previous unsettling presence must have been a ghost too. Suddenly, a voice from behind startles him, causing him to drop something with a clatter, as a man in a suit reaches out, politely excusing himself. The man apologizes for surprising him, but Kuda, bowing deeply, insists he wasn't startled at all. The visitor then reminds Kuda of their covenant, to which Kuda warmly responds, inviting him inside. As the door opens, a group of men in dark suits steps inside, their leader offering a polite, yet unsettling, greeting. An awkward silence hangs in the air as the man in front takes a deep breath, a curious smile spreading across his face as he remarks on the pleasant aroma. He seems to recognize the scent, while Kuda, utterly bewildered, wonders if his ghost-repelling jelly could actually be having an effect on these men. Startled by their unexpected reaction, Kuda tries to interject, his voice laced with confusion. The men, however, are undeterred, their leader expressing eager anticipation for the red bean jelly, while Kuda can only confirm he did indeed make it, still grappling with their apparent immunity. Kuda finally addresses the man by name, who simply hums in response, a subtle warning from Kuda going unheeded. Mr. Lee leans in, his expression serious, suggesting Kuda needs a thorough explanation about the nature of their visit. He chuckles, explaining that contrary to popular belief, there are certain foods they actually dislike, as Kuda diligently cleans the counter, listening intently. With a confident smile, Mr. Lee holds up his phone, displaying a picture of Kuda, and casually states that they are merely ordinary civil servants. He can only guess at the truth of the situation, but it certainly seems to be unfolding in an unexpected way, leaving him feeling a little embarrassed for his earlier fear. Deciding to put his apprehension aside, he resolves to stop being rude and serve his guests the best he possibly can as an apology. Back in the kitchen, he prepares the day's special, his homemade red bean jelly. Presenting a dish of kimchi, he offers it to his guests, hoping they enjoy the additional offering. The aroma alone elicits an enthusiastic response, with one of the guests exclaiming how amazing the food looks. As they begin to eat, the white-haired girl declares the food great, while Mr. Lee suggests they'll have to frequent the establishment. Surprised by their positive reaction, Kuda asks if they truly enjoy his red bean jelly, admitting that they are the first customers to ever appreciate it, prompting Mr. Lee to inquire why. With a knowing, "Oh," Mr. Lee explains that most ghosts have debts to settle with Joe Pansuk, and even the living tend to avoid debt collectors. The mention of debts triggers a memory in Kuda, who suddenly recalls receiving a check earlier. Holding up a check, Mr. Lee explains that the blessings one receives are entirely dependent on the giver. He continues, suggesting that based on what Kuda received, he must never have been a Kodadema recipient. Kuda, deep in thought, recalls the giver as a good kid. Mr. Lee's explanation continues, revealing that the wealthiest person in the afterlife is, and Kuda, seeing money falling, wonders if currency is even used in the afterlife. Mr. Lee confirms that it is, explaining that this is precisely why JS Financial Group holds such immense wealth. A stunned Kuda questions if even after death, the laws of the afterlife continue to favor the wealthy. Mr. Lee clarifies, stating it's not quite like that, but rather, from the moment of birth, every individual is registered with JS Finance. Kuda, processing this new information, then asks if he, too, has an account. Money is provided for good deeds and withdrawn for bad ones. It's a system where it's possible to receive money in the afterlife, thanks to the good karma accumulated by people during their lives. Conversely, those without money in the afterlife are those who committed many sins. Kuda, still processing the implications, asks if he can borrow money, but Mr. Lee explains that one can only receive their balance while still alive. This entire system is managed by the JS Financial Group, the largest financial entity in the afterlife, responsible for establishing its very financial structure. However, he adds, it is possible to transfer money from the afterlife to the accounts of the living, offering to exchange a check for Kuda. Kuda hesitates, then declines the immediate exchange, asking him instead to simply deposit the funds for now, to which Mr. Lee agrees with a chuckle. With that, a check drops onto his surface, its weight now tangible. He stares at his phone, realizing the numbers the lady had given him the other day are, in fact, bank account numbers. A notification chimes, confirming a transfer of 50,000 won, roughly $42. Kuda considers the sum, thinking he'd planned to donate it anyway, but decides to save it for some good karma instead. A sudden burst of laughter escapes him, echoing through the restaurant. Kahaku looks on in surprise, while the white-haired girl exclaims that she can't believe he's laughing at something so serious. Kahaku, however, quickly joins in, thinking that if she'd known this would happen, she wouldn't have bothered with her robes and hood. The two girls share a hearty laugh, and though it was a bit scary after he found out they were ghosts, Kuda reflects that they seem pretty human as long as he doesn't think about it too much. He and his companions step through a sliding door, entering a new, traditionally styled establishment. Inside, a woman in elegant traditional attire greets them, her thoughts drifting to how long it has been since she last saw someone like them, and how she used to wear her hair up, seemingly trapped in a ghost age. Without preamble, the woman issues a command, telling him not to just stand there, but to hurry and fetch her some soul. He responds with a polite, ma'am, while internally wondering if she tied her hair up because he had mistaken her for a teenager, a thought that lingers as he processes her unusual request. Observing her traditional clothes and hairstyle, it becomes clear that she must have passed away long before any of the other customers, truly stuck in her ghost age. He quickly serves her, offering an apology for any previous delay, while she accepts the offering with a simple good, though her expression remains unreadable as she repeatedly expresses regret for a decision. As his companions settle at the table, he asks for her name, to which she calmly replies, Lee Kongjin, ma'am. Elsewhere, Shin Suho reacts with a surprised "oh," immediately questioning, which Lee is it? Back at the table, Lee Kongjin continues, acknowledging the decision and revealing that Lord Lee Kongjin has deep ties with my organization, before adding, I am a kin of Lord Lee, but I am supposed to be your household, so? Her words trailing off with an air of complex history. Kuda, still processing the implications of her words, asks how long it has been since she passed away. A sudden jolt of realization hits him, his eyes widening in shock. As Lee Kongjin's gaze intensifies, her eyes glowing with an eerie red light, a chilling aura emanates from her, a stark reminder that deep resentment ties ghosts to the mortal realm and prevents them from crossing over. A dark, swirling energy gathers around her form, as she warns him never to inquire about such matters again. A deep, chilling breath escapes the ethereal figure, who remembers a time when the undead could be commanded. Their power flowed from a crimson aura, allowing them to control even the most formidable spirits, but now, that memory feels distant. Snapping back to reality, Narumi Kuda mutters an apology, realizing how incredibly rude he must have seemed. The vision returns, showing the undead that once served, now free and roaming over the world, their mana far exceeding any known rank. The figure can hardly believe it, questioning if this is truly the scale of the disaster, or if something even more terrifying awaits. Back in the diner, Kuda diligently wipes down the counter, a thought crossing his mind about the lack of customers, both living and dead, and wondering if the previous encounter was merely a test. His musings are interrupted by a voice asking for his attention, to which he promptly responds. Still processing the strange vision, he is startled by a new customer, quickly regaining his composure to offer a seat and inquire about their order. Before he can even process the first request, an ominous swarm of figures suddenly rushes into the diner. The once empty space is instantly packed with a ravenous crowd, their eyes glowing with an unnatural hunger as they clamor for food. He is caught off guard, his legs nearly trampled as the stampede of customers surges past him. Overwhelmed, he can only utter a desperate plea, the sheer number of patrons and the strange, unpleasant smell emanating from them becoming suffocating. The cacophony of demands assaults him from all sides, orders for kimchi jjigae and short ribs echoing through the small space. More specific, insistent requests for cheese omelets and omuris are shouted, along with urgent demands for rice and soup. Flustered, Kuda tries to apologize, explaining that the day's menu is limited to garlic pork stir-fry and rice. But his explanation is met with immediate disdain, one customer loudly complaining about the restricted menu and lamenting the previous owner's culinary versatility. He stands there, flustered and overwhelmed, reflecting on his inexperience, as the chaos of the diner presses in. Suddenly, a demanding customer, his eyes glowing with an unnatural light, leans forward impatiently, declaring his hunger. Kuda tries to block the customer from entering the kitchen, insisting that entry is forbidden without permission. But the demanding customer simply holds up a knife, its reflection showing Kuda's startled face, and offers to help. Without waiting for an answer, he grabs a handful of ingredients, leaving Kuda with no choice but to accept the situation, resigning himself to cooking whatever the customers demand. As Kuda begins to chop, Shin Soo-hyun appears, apologizing for the distraction and explaining that he often helped out when the previous owner was still around, offering to wash dishes while Kuda cooks. The demanding customer begins tossing ingredients in a pan, while Shin Soo-hyun washes dishes, leaving Kuda to wonder if the customer is referring to Madam Kim Bok-soo, and if it's even acceptable to let him cook in the kitchen. Shaking off his doubts, Kuda focuses on the task at hand, swiftly preparing a dish. The kitchen hums with activity, orders for spicy pork stir-fry and fried eggs flying in, as the demanding customer, already helping himself to ingredients, declares a dish his own, quickly preparing a simple kimchi jjigae in a pan. He leans over Kuda, who is still reeling from the sudden influx of customers, reassuring him that everyone feels overwhelmed at the start. Kuda, surprised by the customer's unexpected culinary skill, admits his shock at the sheer volume of orders. Just then, Shin Soo-hyun enters the kitchen, asking if they need help with a kimchi jjigae order. A knowing grin spreading across his face as he offers his assistance. Kuda readily agrees, finding the idea of extra help quite appealing. And with a pat on his shoulder, Shin Soo-hyun assures him not to worry, promising to prepare soup in a flash while the demanding customer insists his kimchi jjigae be served first. Kuda, still reeling from the sudden influx of customers, is startled when Lee Kang-jin, the demanding customer, presents a dish, casually announcing, "Here's your order, chef." Later, he finds himself seated at a table with both Lee Kang-jin and Shin Soo-hyun, who asks if he remembers him, prompting Kuda to exclaim, "Rookie." Lee Kang-jin then reveals his true identity, introducing himself as the one Kuda used to invite over every holiday to his grandmother's place, stating, "It's me, Rookie. I'm Lee Kang-jin. You invited me every holiday when I was at your grandma's." Kuda struggles to connect the face to the name, acknowledging that he remembers the name from his grandmother's restaurant, but not the person himself, musing, "You mean the guy who used to come to the restaurant with my grandma? I don't remember your face, but I do remember your name, so I guess so." Shin Soo-hyun, his face momentarily distorted, interjects, suggesting they get a drink before 1 a.m. and talk more later, saying, "Hey, there's not much time until 1 a.m. Let's get some drink today, and we'll talk next time." Kuda quietly repeats the nickname, Rookie, as the realization slowly dawns on him. A photograph from the past shows a younger Kuda alongside a young Lee Kang-jin, confirming their childhood connection. Lee Kang-jin's disbelief is palpable, his voice echoing the question, "What do you mean? You don't remember me?" The conversation continues at the table, with Lee Kang-jin expressing his frustration that Kuda remembers his grandmother's food but not him, while Shin Soo-hyun playfully asks if Kuda is cold, as he looks utterly overwhelmed. He recalls a time when the man before him had rented a car without a driver's license, a chaotic trip to the beach where they saved children from a drowning current, and how he himself had been saved from the same fate. Yet, the other man simply states he doesn't remember any of it. Overwhelmed by the dismissal of such a vivid memory, Kuda shoves him back with a frustrated cry. The man steadies himself, his expression hardening as he declares, "That's enough." His gaze intense, he asserts, "This isn't something that can be changed. Narumi Kuda sits alone, a quiet intensity in his gaze as a thought echoes through his mind. He shouldn't interfere with the living. Yet, a dark, swirling presence manifests, its voice a chilling whisper, claiming ownership since the moment of resentment, and promising that it will rise from a living hell to avenge its grievances. Elsewhere, a man with golden hair shouts in frustration, lamenting that if not for a certain manager, his fate would have been different, while two other men listen intently. A ghostly figure appears, questioning if he's the only one who got the short end of the stick, having witnessed hundreds of lives with his own hands, only to become a ghost after death, finding the irony ridiculous. Another man, older and weary, asks if anyone knows how many buildings he's designed, as a younger man beside him nods in silent acknowledgement. A soldier laments his flat feet, which should have disqualified him from military service, yet he was made to serve, only to die in an accident. Kuda, his eyes wide with a dawning realization, murmurs a soft huh? As he comprehends that they're all speaking. The air fills with the sudden, collective recounting of their lives, and Kuda reflects, acknowledging his own carelessness. Another voice joins the chorus of regrets, a man wishing he hadn't just sat back and let himself be caught, admitting his fear of adversaries armed with knives. A sharp, visceral memory flashes through his mind, a sudden, brutal impact, followed by a choked gasp. The lingering thought, a whisper of fate, declares, I was unlucky. He recalls a familiar voice from his past, a mentor who always emphasized that true justice lay in defending the weak. A different memory surfaces of an older man he knew, who, he muses, must have eventually joined the police force. But the thought is quickly overshadowed by a painful truth, the man's life cut short by a gangster, a memory that makes his hand clench in silent frustration. Back in the present, the demanding customer asks if he's eaten yet, suggesting they share a meal, even as Kuda notes the late hour. Kuda glances back, a faint smile on his face, resigned to the customer's persistence, knowing they will eventually stop talking. 20 minutes later, he sips from a cup, finding the quiet moment strange, yet sufficient. The customer, impressed by his cooking, exclaims how good the food is, wondering if Kuda was originally a chef given his serious skills. He listens as the customer, still impressed, humbly claims his 10 years in the industry make him a mere novice, only for the customer to immediately contradict himself, declaring such a person to be among the top 1%. A slight grin plays on his lips, as he offers a simple thanks, though a thought crosses his mind that he could have done even better with more time and ingredients. The young chef, however, is lost in his own thoughts, marveling at the customer's remarkable speed and customer service, while the customer himself muses that despite the chef's humility, his skills are undeniably exceptional. With a sudden resolve, the customer declares that he needs this person, reflecting on how it's his first time encountering someone who so easily breaks through his usual barriers. The chef, slightly confused, dismisses the idea that he's anything special. Extending a hand, he expresses his anticipation for working together, introducing himself as Lee Kong-jin. As their hands meet, Lee Kong-jin confirms his name and age, prompting Kuda to realize they are the same age. A thought then suggests they should forget about their ghost ages and simply be friends. A wide smile spreads across Kuda's face, as he enthusiastically agrees. The clock ticks closer to 1 in the morning. A man with long, dark hair forces a drink down Kuda's throat, urging him to finish it, as Kuda struggles and calls out for help. A sharp tap on a glass echoes in the strange encounter. Then, an older man with gray hair apologizes to him, admitting he couldn't remember Kuda from the orphanage they both knew, leaving Kuda surprised. The long-haired man points, explaining that he is a proxy sent to look after the orphanage Kuda grew up in, promising to keep them out of trouble. The hands of a clock tick past midnight. Kuda smiles faintly, a strange glow emanating from him as he utters a farewell. He begins to fall, surrounded by shimmering, ethereal light. The world around him dissolves into a swirl of fading particles. Kuda finds himself alone, a small figure in a vast, empty space. His hand brushes against something, as the lingering thought of Hokul's death still weighs heavily on his mind. He imagines offering to make Hokul whatever he desires, now that they've met again. A sudden jingle of a bell pulls him back to the present. Two customers stumble in, their unsteady gait suggesting they've already had a few drinks, and one of them calls out, asking if the place is still open. The demanding customer insists on just one serving of soju, no more, no less, while his companion asks if they can still order. Kuda, now facing Mr. Lee, hears the man's boisterous laughter as he questions how many shots constitute a single serving, then declares that drinking alone isn't truly drinking. Mr. Lee then looks down at the menu, asking if this is all they have. And Kuda, flustered, admits he forgot to change the menu. Behind the counter, Kuda takes an order from the orphanage manager, who sits patiently at a table. Soon, the sizzle of the stove fills the air, as Kuda prepares the meal, wondering how he'll manage to update the menu before the evening rush. With a soft clink, the dishes are served, a vibrant array of food placed before the manager. He takes a bite, savoring the flavors. A flash of surprise crosses Kuda's face as the manager praises his cooking, declaring it delicious and asking if Kuda himself marinated it. Kuda acknowledges the compliment, but his thoughts drift back to the forgotten menu update. The manager then inquires about the new menu, causing Kuda to fluster, realizing he still hasn't updated it. Satisfied, the manager leaves a generous amount of money on the table, promising to make a reservation for tomorrow. Kuda thanks him, his mind still reeling from the menu oversight. As the first light of dawn paints the sky, birds begin their morning chorus over the city. Soon, the urban landscape is fully illuminated, ready for another busy day. Inside the restaurant kitchen, the quiet hum of appliances fills the air as Narumi Kuda prepares for the morning rush, a soft escaping him as he organizes the utensils. He consults a recipe notebook, carefully reviewing the instructions. His hands move with practiced ease, a testament to his growing comfort in this new role, thinking to himself that he's now more used to this than his old job. With a determined expression, he vows to make enough for the upcoming reservation and for Hokel, declaring, "Let's do this," as he prepares to overcome the challenge of the pot. The pot sizzles as he follows the recipe, which instructs him to soak the seaweed in water for 30 minutes, then to massage the beef brisket with a rice paddle, a step that gives him pause. He questions the unusual instruction, wondering why she added this step to the recipe, but ultimately decides to trust the process, muttering, "I guess I'll do what it says." Following the instructions precisely, he proceeds to stir-fry the seaweed with some sesame oil. As the final touches are added to a dish, fresh water and rice water are used to control its thickness, before a final pinch of salt is added to taste, signaling that Granny Kim Bokbi's beef seaweed soup is now complete. Meanwhile, at the restaurant's entrance, a voice calls out, announcing their arrival. "Hello, we have a reservation." A woman in a red dress, accompanied by a man in a suit, complains about the temperature, finding it uncomfortably warm. "It's so hot." The soft jingle of a bell announces a new arrival. Stepping inside, Shin Suho and Kazumiya Kahaku are greeted by Narumi Kuda, who acknowledges their reservation. As they are led to their table, Suho remarks on the pleasant coolness of the air, noting that Kuda must have prepared for their visit in advance. Kuda, however, finds it odd, as he hadn't turned on the air conditioning. He then welcomes them back, inviting them to sit. Once seated, Suho confidently states that establishments like this, despite their humble appearance, always serve the best food, urging Kahaku to focus on the taste rather than the interior. The server admits the interior might be a bit outdated, but it is what it is. A steaming bowl of food is placed before them, and Kahaku takes a bite, her eyes widening in delight. Suho hums in agreement, and Kahaku, captivated by the flavor, politely asks if the recipe is available for purchase. Kuda explains that the recipe has been perfected over 30 years, but he is interrupted by a sudden, loud noise from the kitchen. He apologizes, explaining that the chef, his mother, is currently busy and cannot be disturbed. Kahaku, however, is determined, convinced the dish tastes exactly like her mother's cooking, and resolves to ask again later. Kazumiya Kahaku, still surprised by the delicious food, exclaims that she's never encountered such a coincidence, while Narumi Kuda looks on, confused. She then compliments his cooking, saying he's really good for his age, and Kuda, pleased, expresses his gladness that she enjoyed the soup. Meanwhile, Shin Suho, observing the interaction, confirms to Kahaku that he indeed brought her here, remarking on his consistent ability to find good food. Kuda, however, clarifies that seaweed soup isn't on the menu, and explains that customers can pay whatever they like, as the restaurant has no set prices. Kahaku, with a mischievous grin, offers a mere 1,000 won, which Kuda immediately rejects, insisting that only cheapskates would pay such a small amount for a great meal. He internally agrees with her sentiment, knowing that if he breaks his mother's rule about accepting any payment, he'll be back in his old, tiny apartment. Shin Suho then steps forward, offering a much larger sum of 500,000 won, but Kahaku intervenes, suggesting it would be more fun for Kuda to accept smaller bills, much to his dismay. As the two customers prepare to leave, Kuda bows deeply, thanking them and inviting them to come again. He reflects on how he never thought he'd worry about receiving too much money, but now he realizes the importance of setting a proper price. The young chef considers how fixed prices would simplify things for both his customers and himself, resolving to consult Mr. Shin about it later. Narumi Kuda gazes up at a towering skyscraper, a hint of wonder in his voice as he remarks on the sheer volume of food sold to the living. His companion, Shin Suhyun, playfully suggests that Kuda must have served ghosts, to which Kuda responds with a light-hearted laugh, admitting he's merely reading a book. Suhyun, with a grin, then asks if the book was truly that bad, as Kuda holds a small piece of food, seemingly lost in thought. Kuda clarifies that with his usual cooking, the Afterlife diner isn't so bad, but without the air conditioning, it's a different story, prompting Suhyun to agree, adding that there's something else at play. Kuda, now alone and deep in thought, wonders if the unusual coldness, even in the middle of summer, is due to ghosts. He acknowledges the possibility, as a narration box explains that energy accumulates in places where spirits gather, causing the temperature to drop. Unbeknownst to Kuda and Suhyun, a menacing, horned skull-like entity with glowing red eyes and a blue aura hovers behind them, as the narration warns that the longer spirits stay, the more energy accumulates, and the colder it becomes. The chilling truth of the diner's unusual coldness manifests as a translucent, pale blue figure, its form indistinct yet undeniably present, hovering in the dim light. He had been told that after spending enough time around the diner, he would begin to see the spirits that lingered just beyond normal perception, and now, the reality of it begins to sink in. Soo-hyun explains that the spirits outside are different from those inside, prompting Kuda to question the distinction. A shiver runs down his spine as a ghostly figure, its form shimmering with cold energy, appears directly behind him, unseen by his companion, confirming the chilling presence. He looks down, a nervous sweat beading on his brow, muttering that he's just checking something. Soo-hyun, oblivious to the apparition, simply states that Kuda will find out once he sees them, adding that they're hard to miss. A sudden burst of laughter escapes Kuda, a mix of relief and disbelief, as he exclaims that he knew they were ghosts, even if he was scared for a moment. Soo-hyun joins in the laughter, finding Kuda's reaction amusing, as Kuda reiterates his initial fear. He then asks about the unusual coldness of the place, wondering if they don't normally see ghosts. Soo-hyun explains that his mother was a truly kind person, and they had just opened the diner when she passed away. That's why, he continues, they wanted to do something related to the diner, and Kuda acknowledges the sentiment. He then introduces his family, starting with Mr. Shin Suho, the oldest son, who appears as a distinguished man in a suit. Next is Subul, the third, a muscular man with a serious expression. Soo-hyun gestures with his hands, continuing his explanation. Finally, he introduces Shin Suju, their youngest sibling, who is working as an interior designer and is depicted with a wide, almost manic grin, blood splattered on his hand. Kuda, processing this information, comments that the last customer and the diner itself looked rather shabby. Soo-hyun nods, agreeing to tell Soo-young to visit soon. He then asks Kuda, referring to the time, if he's going to open the diner soon. As a customer departs, wishing him a good day, Kuda offers a polite thanks. But his mind is elsewhere, pondering the true nature of the daily diner, a place where both the living and the dead can visit. He recalls Shin Suho's words, imagining his older brother holding their sister, Soo-young, as if they represent the very essence of this unique establishment, a place where the boundaries blur. A slight smirk plays on his lips, the realization settling in. Under the glow of the city lights, he muses that if it's truly open to everyone, then Shin Soo-hyun wasn't exaggerating when he called it a place between the living and the dead. The next day, a phone call interrupts his thoughts, and he hears Mr. Lee's voice, wondering why he was called, then immediately addressing Kuda's concern about the spirit customers. Sitting at a diner table, Kuda confirms his worries, explaining that even living customers occasionally visit and inquire about the prices. And he couldn't find anything in the contract that mentioned rules applying to the living. Mr. Lee, arms crossed, considers this new information a thoughtful hum escaping him. He continues, explaining that whether people pay or not, the money will still be deposited into a bank account. So, he asks, is there really a need to get picky? Kuda listens intently, his expression troubled. He counters, wondering if he would be steering them to commit sins, since he's the one who tells them that he'll accept whatever they offer. Mr. Lee pauses, considering the young man's words, before concluding that if that's what they truly think, then it can't be helped. He then offers to give Kuda some advice regarding Madam Kim, since there aren't any rules about regulating her. Suddenly, Kuda's phone buzzes with a message, reminding him that he thought Madam Kim had passed away. A sudden realization dawns on him, a quiet "oh" escaping his lips. He understands now. Mr. Lee can contact the afterlife because he's an afterlife lawyer. He nods slowly into the phone, his expression serious as he confirms, okay, I understand. Yes, let's go with that. A sudden, sharp beep from the other end of the line makes him flinch, his eyes widening in surprise as he asks, what did she say? The voice on the phone begins to relay the somber news, simply stating, she said. Nearby, Mr. Lee's expression hardens, a grave concern settling over his features as he listens intently to the unfolding conversation. Mr. Lee reflects on a recent conversation, the words of another echoing in his mind. He had just told Kuda that the decision was simple, and that he could decide for himself, leaving the young man confused. Mr. Lee had explained that the other party simply needed to abide by the original rules, but Kuda, finding the situation less serious than he'd anticipated, lets out a small puff of air. Mr. Lee, however, fumes, convinced it was all done on purpose. The restaurant remains quiet, the conversation concluded. Kuda reviews a receipt, noting the completed order for spicy pork and a rice bowl, confirming it should be good enough. He feels a sense of relief, knowing he needs to secure enough funds for his college tuition. A sudden buzz from his phone interrupts his thoughts, revealing a call from the government office, which he answers with a questioning, hello. His expression shifts to confusion as he asks if his tuition payment failed, then quickly corrects himself, acknowledging it's not that, and responds with a series of yes, yes. A sudden, unexpected call leaves Kuda utterly bewildered. On the other end of the line, a voice asks if he's heard about the Seoshin Trading Company, assuming he's already familiar with the gist of their offer. The company, associated with Seoshin University, is offering an internship with a monthly pay of 1.9 million won from September to December. The caller acknowledges Kuda's busy schedule but emphasizes the opportunity to add the internship to his resume, asking for his consideration. Kuda, however, finds himself in a dilemma, torn between the internship and his responsibilities at the diner. Later, speaking with the orphanage manager, Kuda expresses his gratitude for the opportunity, but explains that managing the diner due to his family's circumstances leaves him no time. The manager, on the phone himself, dismisses the idea of the diner being a business, revealing he was merely asked to run it for 5 years. He then turns his attention back to Kuda, asking about his plans for the next few years, to which Kuda admits he hasn't truly thought about it yet. Kuda's manager reminds him that this internship is his last chance, emphasizing that in 5 years, such opportunities will no longer be available, urging him to consider if it isn't wise to seize an opportunity for his future, as chances don't always come around. Considering the weight of the words, Kuda acknowledges the truth in the manager's statement, his hand idly swirling the contents of a glass. He asks for time to think, but his mind immediately drifts to the diner, where his father's operating hours stretch from 10 in the morning until 10 at night. As he walks, the implications weigh on him. No matter how late he might start an internship, he'd never be home before 11, making it seem odd to even consider doing an internship during the day. A sigh escapes him as he wonders what to do, the clamor of the diner filling the air, and that's when he recalls his own words. He remembers a time in the US when he was in a car accident, and a guy pulled a long, rambling story, completely ignoring him as he served a customer. Instead of truly listening, everyone just talks about themselves, as always, a thought that makes him sigh in frustration before finding a moment of relief. Noticing his long face, the manager asks if something happened today, offering him a shot. Kuda hesitates, then admits the truth. He received an internship offer at a trading company today. He stares, wide-eyed and incredulous, as the man before him casually suggests he abandon his father's diner. His voice rising in a desperate plea, he tries to calm the situation, but the question of where they would go next hangs heavy in the air. Shin Suho, however, remains unfazed, insisting that the diner's future is not his concern, and that Kuda's own path is far more important. He continues to press the issue, emphasizing the prestige of the trading company and the opportunities it presents. With a confident boast, Shin Suho declares the company to be one of the best in Korea, a name Kuda surely recognizes. He then shifts his focus, advising Kuda to learn English and master the intricacies of the market, implying a future far removed from his current life. As Shin Suho continues to elaborate on the costs and expansion plans, Kuda listens intently, the weight of the decision pressing down on him. Finally, Kuda manages a hesitant response, acknowledging that he is, in fact, getting some of what Shin Suho is saying. Back at the diner, the familiar chime of the bell announces a new arrival, drawing the attention of the orphanage manager and Kuda, who both acknowledge the customer. He stares wide-eyed at the new arrivals, a hesitant welcome escaping his lips. A family of 3, a man, a woman, and a small child, walks into the diner, their forms shimmering with an ethereal transparency, as if they are barely tethered to the physical world. From a nearby table, Kahaku watches them with an unblinking gaze, her expression unreadable. Kuda, however, is far from composed, his voice rising in a panicked shout. "What are you waiting for? Get them seated." His eyes wide with terror, he points at the translucent figures, exclaiming, "Ghosts. They're real ghosts." Kahaku, meanwhile, remains calm, her internal monologue acknowledging the obvious. "So what? I'm a ghost too, but they're see-through. The horror is real." The orphanage manager, ever the steady presence, tries to calm Kuda, explaining, "Relax. That's because they just died recently." A narration box clarifies the phenomenon. When people die, their souls are still connected to their bodies for about 3 days. That's why they're semi-transparent during that time. The narration continues, adding another layer to the understanding of spirits, as a police officer observes the scene from a distance. Ghosts usually rise up at the moment of death and disappear after 3 days. But they're here. Still reeling from the sight of the translucent family, Kuda wonders aloud what will happen to them now, while Kahaku, observing the spirits with a detached gaze, asks what he would do if he could still smell the food. The meat sizzles enticingly on the grill, and Kahaku simply states that it looks delicious. Kuda then turns to the orphanage manager, asking what will happen to the family, as someone will eventually come to take them to the afterlife. The manager explains that before then, they will wander around, still holding onto their memories. Kahaku then asks Kuda why he didn't go to the afterlife, wondering if no one came to take him there. A sense of deep resentment hangs in the air, as Kahaku asks if he has no regrets. Kuda, looking away, confirms that he does indeed have regrets, but then questions what that means. The orphanage manager interjects, explaining that everyone dies, and if that festered and became resentment, they would become evil spirits. He continues, stating that the spirits know they can only cross over if they let go of their resentment, but the problem is that nobody can remember what they resent. Kuda considers the implications, realizing that in the end, these spirits are left to wander a cold, hungry world, much like himself. The orphanage manager explains that this means Yong-soo and all the other ghosts who come here must have some lingering attachment. He recalls a previous case, a child who had to catch a fish he lost, implying the child's resentment was tied to that fish. In that case, Kuda muses, perhaps he can help them find what they're looking for, or even assist other ghosts too. The manager then holds up some money, suggesting they can pay for a great meal with it. Kahaku, now present, asks Kuda if he is a financial ghost, then wonders aloud what a financial ghost even is, admitting it's her first time hearing the term. Kuda reacts with surprise, asserting that he is still a living person. Kahaku clarifies, explaining she thought he was someone from the afterlife, before laughing it off as one thing leading to another. Kuda simply agrees, a slight smile on his face. As the conversation shifts, the orphanage manager turns to him, his expression apologetic, asking if he could possibly do them a favor. He watches the manager gently hold one of the children, the weight of their situation becoming palpable. Kahaku then explains the harsh reality. Without immediate relatives, the orphanage and all its children would eventually fall under government care. Their plea is to ensure that any money received goes directly to the children's future, rather than being diverted by a sponsor. Kahaku's earnest gaze conveys their deep gratitude, even for a small amount of help. Kuda ponders how he could possibly assist them, realizing his lack of legal understanding, before a sudden thought strikes him. He pauses, a name forming in his mind, someone who truly understands the law. A suited figure walks away in the distance, his back to the viewer. A question hangs in the air, concerning the need for legal expertise. Suddenly, a figure in a sharp suit makes his entrance, declaring his legal knowledge with a confident stride. The unexpected arrival of Shin Suho, the principal, sends a ripple of shock through the onlookers, causing some to stumble back in surprise. He dismisses their concerns with a casual laugh, assuring them he isn't there to collect anything, but the crowd remains frozen in apprehension. As the principal approaches, Narumi Kuda and Kazumiya Kahaku exchange a look of unease, Kuda acknowledging the truth of his words with a sigh. Shin Suho then directly addresses the young man, asking if he is indeed Cha Kangho, to which Kuda confirms his identity. A look of utter shock crosses Kuda's face as he protests that he doesn't possess the kind of money Shin Suho might be implying. Shin Suho, however, simply huffs, explaining that the Cha Kangho couple are VIP clients who financially support the orphanage, and he has been keeping a close watch on them. As the weight of this revelation settles, Kuda and Kahaku stand close together, uncertain of what comes next. He reveals the extent of the financial sponsorship, stating that both Narumi Kuda and Kazumiya Kahaku have been sponsored by the Cha Kangho couple for 10 years, each receiving 20 million won. This has resulted in a staggering 200 million won in their bank accounts, a revelation that leaves Narumi Kuda stunned. He then suggests that with such a sum, they could easily hire him, to which Kazumiya Kahaku hesitantly agrees. Shin Suho quickly corrects himself, adding that the Cha Kangho couple has also been donating 20 million won annually to their orphanage through the same program, advising them to hold on to their newfound wealth as more will be coming. Narumi Kuda expresses his gratitude, overwhelmed by the generosity, while Shin Suho dismisses it as merely doing his best for the orphanage, finding the situation quite fascinating. The orphanage manager, visibly moved, expresses his happiness for the children, as Shin Suho bows respectfully to him and Mr. Lee. Later, alone, Narumi Kuda finds himself questioning his own actions, realizing it's already 1 in the morning, and feeling a pang of sadness that the others have left. With a renewed sense of purpose, he declares his readiness to continue. Stepping outside, he notes the pleasant weather, a clear sky above. Relieved from the burden of constant work, Narumi Kuda tosses a trash bag, a quiet satisfaction settling over him as he realizes he no longer has to toil every single day. Yet, as he loads laundry into a machine, a lingering thought reminds him that despite his newfound freedom, he is still short on money. Stepping onto a grimy floor, his resolve hardens, thinking that all he needs to do is conquer the monsters in the dungeon, and the orphanage will be secure. Suddenly, a chilling sensation makes him pause, his eyes widening as he utters a soft, confused sound. Before him, a grotesque, decaying figure with glowing red eyes emerges from the darkness, its presence radiating a sinister aura as it takes a heavy, deliberate step. The creature continues its relentless advance, its rotting form drawing closer with another chilling step. Narumi Kuda's eyes widen in sheer terror as the monster's foot lands with a sickening, final step directly before him. Overwhelmed by the horrifying sight, he screams in pure fright, realizing with a jolt that he is facing actual ghosts. His legs give out beneath him, sending him tumbling backward in a desperate attempt to escape the terrifying apparition. A heavy thud echoes through the air, signaling a sudden impact or collapse. From the darkness, a voice questions, "Can he see us outside now?" Another responds, "Well, it's about time he can see us." Another observer remarks, "I knew he'd be surprised, but I didn't think he'd faint," while a third interjects, Are you going to slap him? Don't do that." As Kuda lies unconscious, a determined voice declares, "I'll make him wake up," followed by a command, "Step aside." The speaker then adds, "You have to prepare him on this mission. His eyes flutter open, a slow blink signaling his return to consciousness. A blonde-haired man, holding a dark-haired companion, lets out a short laugh, while a gray-haired figure stands nearby, and the blonde man quips, "Ooh, leave it to the professional." Kuda, still reeling, struggles to process what he's seen, his mind racing with the terrifying realization that there are no monsters, they weren't see-through, and they weren't ghosts, they really looked like the ones from novels, monsters. The blonde-haired man, now standing with his two companions, calmly reveals, "That was us." Kuda, still bewildered, questions their meaning. "What do you mean? None of the ones I saw, or the ones I saw?" He flinches, startled by the sudden appearance of the orange-haired figure, who leans in close, while two other figures with dark and light brown hair observe from behind. Strangely enough, The narration explains they revert to their pre-death appearance when they enter the diner. A wave of nausea washes over him as he imagines the gruesome state of their bodies, the thought alone making him want to vomit. He doubles over, feeling utterly sick, as the orange-haired figure asks if he's all right, urging him to a hospital. Standing before a men's room sign, he wonders why he's even there at this hour, it being hours before 11 at night. He looks around, utterly lost, unsure of where he could possibly go. The orange-haired figure, now joined by his two companions, explains that they always wait outside until the diner closes, and that Kuda simply couldn't see them until now. Kuda questions this, asking what he means, to which the figure casually replies that they are ghosts and can't go to the afterlife yet. Then, taking his hand, the orange-haired figure reveals that he checked Kangho's condition earlier, and his body isn't in great shape for his age, especially his stomach, liver, and knees. Still reeling from the ghost's sudden appearance and knowledge of his condition, Kuda can only ask how he knew, as the Dr. Ghost proudly declares himself one of the greatest physicians of the Joseon dynasty, capable of curing diseases with a mere touch. He then explains that Kuda startles easily due to a weak heart, demonstrating a pressure point on his back to calm his nerves. Though the Dr. Ghost asks if he feels better, Kuda remains uncertain, only thinking that he might be relaxing, but isn't entirely sure. Yuendi, as if that wasn't enough, the ghost continues his impromptu medical lesson, pointing out the Shinsu meridian for an aching back. He then moves to Kuda's knee, identifying the Gakshun meridian as the cure for knee pain. Overwhelmed by the ghost's rapid-fire demonstrations and the sight of his multiple phantom arms, Kuda can only stare in disbelief as the Dr. Ghost excitedly asks if he feels much better. After his whirlwind of adjustments, the Dr. Ghost concludes that bush clover would be excellent for Kuda's body, leaving him feeling wobbly and disoriented. He elaborates on the herb's benefits, explaining that bush clover is a well-known and effective remedy for arthritis, blood circulation, inflammation, and kidney disease. Kuda, still trying to process everything, agrees to look for it if he gets a chance, but the Dr. Ghost, impatient, insists they go to the mountain he mentioned right away. Still reeling from the unexpected medical examination, Kuda hesitantly asks the Joseon Dr. Ghost if he truly needs to go with him, citing his responsibilities at the restaurant. But the doctor dismisses his concerns, declaring that his weak heart can't wait, and they must depart immediately. Soon after, the two are seen walking through a bustling city street, the ghost still talking about the herb. As they navigate the market, the doctor continues to explain that the bush clover is a rare herb, difficult to find, and they must hurry to retrieve it, leaving Kuda, looking weary, to sigh with a strange mix of resignation and excitement. He listens as the ghost reiterates his recommendation for the bush clover, emphasizing its importance. Suddenly, Kuda is startled, his eyes widening in surprise. He stares at a woman passing by, and the ghost casually remarks that she is also a spirit. A tremor runs through Kuda's body, his vision blurring as he clutches his head, the world spinning into a terrifying seizure. He writhes on the ground, his body convulsing violently as the seizure takes hold, while the Joseon Dr. Ghost kneels beside him, urging him to rise. A soft purple glow emanates from the ghost's hand, as he focuses his energy, attempting to stabilize Kuda. Still caught in the throes of his fit, Kuda hears the ghost's words, but his gaze is drawn upward, sensing a new, unsettling presence. Suddenly, a spectral female figure materializes above him, her form shimmering with a faint purple aura. Her eyes glow a malevolent red, as her face distorts into a horrifying, skull-like visage, confirming her ghostly nature. The sight of the terrifying spirit rips a primal scream from Kuda's throat, his body arching in pure terror. A ghostly figure, racked with pain, looks up at Kuda, a desperate question escaping its lips. As a wave of intense agony washes over the spirit, its form shimmers with a faint, ethereal glow, a pained cry echoing through the air. The spirit's agony intensifies, its mouth open in a silent scream as its hand reaches out, trembling. Overwhelmed by the sight, Kuda reaches out, his hand instinctively grasping the spectral figure, a desperate plea forming on his lips. As the ghost collapses into his arms, Kuda holds it close, his voice filled with urgency as he begs for help. The orphanage manager rushes over, his brow furrowed with concern, as Kuda, visibly sweating and distressed, confirms he has already called for an ambulance. The ghost's hand, translucent and frail, trembles as it struggles to comprehend its own fading existence, a silent thought of disbelief passing through its mind. With the ghost now lying on the ground, surrounded by concerned onlookers, Kuda desperately urges it to hold on, while the manager, kneeling beside them, reassures him that help is on its way. From a short distance, Shin Suho observes the chaotic scene, his expression calm as he notes the ghost's increasingly transparent form. As the Joseon Dr. Ghost grew increasingly transparent, the manager frantically pointed out that he was blocking the way, while Kuda, kneeling beside the fading spirit, cried out in desperation, wondering what to do. He then turned to the manager, surprised that he too could see the ghost, a fact the older man confirmed, noting the spirit's alarming transparency. A new idea sparked in Kuda's mind, a different solution to their dire predicament. He looked up, confused by the manager's gaze, asking why he was being stared at so intently. His frustration mounted, and he demanded to know what he was supposed to do in this impossible situation. Suddenly, a memory flashed through his mind, the ghost's own words, detailing specific acupuncture points, the Chongbong, Guanyu, Jiaohiao, and Zhang meridians. He quickly asked where these vital points were located on the ghost's ethereal form. The manager, understanding Kuda's unique connection, explained that such knowledge was beyond ordinary people, but Kuda, guided by the ghost, began to direct him, pointing to a spot behind the ear. With Kuda's precise instructions, the manager carefully inserted the needle, urging the trembling ghost to breathe slowly as the delicate procedure began. As his form flickers, the manager, guided by Kuda, continues the delicate acupuncture, determined to save him, vowing to do whatever it takes, even if it means overexerting himself. He can feel the ghost's energy dwindling, a faint echo of what it once was, but Kuda's unwavering belief urges him onward. With precise movements, the manager places more needles, drawing murmurs from onlookers, who question if such a technique is truly effective outside of traditional Eastern medicine. A sudden, agonizing gasp escapes the ghost as the paradox within him threatens to unleash itself, his ethereal form writhing in silent pain. A single tear trickles from his eye, and a faint, longing whisper escapes his lips. "And mother?" Suddenly, the piercing wail of sirens fills the air, followed by the violent screech of tires as a vehicle crashes nearby. Bystanders rush to the scene, finding the manager unconscious and injured, whispering urgently about getting him to a hospital. A collective sigh of relief escapes the crowd as someone confirms he's received basic first aid and should recover once he reaches a hospital. Kuda watches the scene unfold, a heavy realization settling over him as he recalls the manager's past fears, how his son had always been sick, and the constant dread that something like this would happen. With the final ritual complete, a soft light emanates from Kuda's hand, signaling the Josian doctor ghost's peaceful departure. He watches the translucent form of the spirit fade away, a quiet wish for eternal rest on his lips, as the ghost finally finds its peace. Later, standing on a bustling street with Kahaku, a bright flash of light illuminates the night, a silent acknowledgement of their success. Time passes, and Kuda's thoughts drift to the orphanage manager, whose face now appears calm, a stark contrast to his recent ordeal. Through the reflection in his glasses, a street scene unfolds, suggesting he is recovering and observing the world from a quiet place. Back at the diner, Kuda glances at the clock, wondering if it's already 11 at night, while Kahaku works diligently nearby, both pushing through the late hours. A new customer enters, their footsteps echoing with a grumbling complaint, declaring their hunger is so intense their ribs are starting to show. Kuda greets the man, Mr. Choi, asking for his order, but as he does, a strange, unsettling feeling washes over him. Ominous, blood-soaked footsteps mark a path across the floor. Back in the diner, a sudden alarm blares from his phone, startling Kuda. He slides open the door, inviting whoever is outside to enter. But instead of a customer, he finds a disturbing mess scattered across the entrance. Kahaku, standing nearby, questions the strange situation, wondering why the person is here, but Kuda is already rushing out, intent on investigating. A bloodied knife, still dripping, lies abandoned. Kuda cautiously steps further into the unsettling scene. A figure, covered in blood and barely able to stand, sways unsteadily. He stares in shock, recognizing the bloodied woman as Lady Sorbet. A blood-splattered face, one eye glowing with an eerie red light, stares out from the darkness as a spectral voice asks if she can be seen. Startled, but composed, Narumi Kuda confirms that he can, admitting he only started seeing ghosts a few days prior, before inviting the spectral figure inside, noting the diner has just opened. With a soft, almost inaudible sound, a foot clad in traditional attire steps across the threshold. The spectral woman then settles herself at a table, a quiet presence in the otherwise empty diner. Kuda approaches, asking for her order, to which she calmly requests, "Fry me some sole," and he, bewildered but compliant, agrees. He wonders if she, an older ghost, is perhaps scared of him, or if she's simply older than the other spirits he's encountered. Despite her apparent seniority, he observes that she seems to be perpetually alone. The spectral woman then begins to pour a mysterious liquid from a small flask into several bottles. Suddenly, she pauses, a curious expression on her face, as if sensing something, and murmurs, "Excuse me, HMP." A diner worker, having just served a customer, offers a polite, if slightly flustered, farewell. He considers interfering in what seems to be a personal matter, but ultimately decides against it, concluding that he has enough problems of his own to deal with. Meanwhile, a young man named Kang Jin walks with purpose toward a towering corporate building, reflecting on how it has been a decade since he last saw a particular individual. As he enters the lobby with a colleague, Kang Jin reminds himself to avoid any missteps on this important day, his gaze fixed forward. He arrives at the Taehuang Trading Company, ready to begin a new chapter. Inside the bustling office, Kang Jin introduces himself to a stern-faced colleague, who quickly cuts him off, stating that introductions are unnecessary and that he shouldn't try to use connections. The colleague then curtly directs Kang Jin to his seat, offering to show him the restroom if he needs it, leaving Kang Jin to quietly acknowledge the cold reception. Later, a phone rings at Kang Jin's desk, breaking the silence of his work. He answers, identifying himself as Park Myung, a supervisor from Export Team 2, only for the call to abruptly disconnect, leaving him frustrated. He sits at his new desk, the silence of the office punctuated only by the soft tap of his fingers against the keyboard, a familiar anxiety creeping in as he waits for contact. His brow furrows, a bead of sweat tracing a path down his temple as the tension of the moment becomes almost unbearable. Suddenly, a voice breaks the quiet, and a man with a confident smile introduces himself as Lee Sang-hwan, welcoming Kang Jin to the team, who bows in return. Sang-hwan's smile widens, a hint of condescension in his tone as he challenges Kang Jin to guess his thoughts. Kang Jin can only offer a bewildered sorry in response, clearly taken aback by the unexpected question. Sang-hwan chuckles, dismissing the idea of studying psychology before making a pointed remark about Kang Jin's presumed wealth. Kang Jin's gaze drops, a quiet apology escaping him as Sang-hwan, still smiling, suggests he could simply open a coffee shop if the work proves too challenging. A wave of utter confusion washes over Kang Jin, leaving him silently questioning the bizarre nature of this interaction. Taking a quiet sip from his cup, a young man lets out a soft sigh. A small smile plays on his lips as he closes his eyes in contentment. In a memory, a younger version of himself, with lighter hair, playfully teases a friend, asking why they're so serious about a joke. Back in the present, a senior executive questions Shin Suho about his focus on the new intern, who confirms his attention, noting the intern's past as an honor student. The intern, Narumi Kuda, sips his drink, recalling his own academic achievements, and hears Shin Suho's encouraging words about transitioning to a full-time position. Shin Suho then instructs both Kuda and the other executive to join him, proposing a simple sorting exercise to begin. A bead of sweat forms on Kuda's brow as he finds himself strangely exhausted, despite having done nothing yet. The senior executive expresses doubt about the wisdom of this approach, prompting a confused "huh" from Shin Suho. As Kuda bows deeply before the two executives, the senior executive asks if he is the owner of Daily Right, to which Kuda clarifies he is Narumi Kuda, the new intern from the Sea West Soja Group, starting today. He finds himself questioned by Shin Suho, who asks if he's the intern, while Mr. Lee interjects, confirming he's the owner of a nearby diner that serves good food. Prompting Shin Suho to press further, wondering how he could be interning while also running a diner. A background Mr. Lee finds quite interesting for someone in a trading company, as he sips from his cup. Kuda, recalling a past manager's promise to visit his diner again. With a soft sigh, Shin Suho then signals it's time to move on. A heavy thud echoes as stacks of company inventory lists, status check documents, and trade invoices are laid out, all specifically requested by Harami. Shin Suho addresses the woman, Harami, who acknowledges his precise memory of her numbers. Shin Suho, with a polite smile, acknowledges the praise from his superior, Kang Sun, for his diligent work. As he prepares to leave the office, a thought crosses his mind about his work schedule. Kang Sun confirms his departure, informing him that his internship is officially over and he can go home, with a promise to see him again tomorrow. Walking away, Shin Suho overhears a colleague's grumbling, complaining about how quickly new interns finish their work compared to their own experiences. Another colleague, Sang Sub, approaches him, agreeing that they shouldn't keep him if his work is done, but then reminiscing about his own intern days to their chief. Shin Suho continues down the hallway, reflecting on his initial concerns about his lack of background, yet acknowledging his exceptional performance as a student intern. Meanwhile, Sang Sub holds a folder labeled Tips, pleased that organizing things as Mr. Park suggested actually proved helpful, despite his initial skepticism. He walks on, feeling a sense of accomplishment, even as he's asked if he's finished his own work, to which he proudly confirms he has. Back with Shin Suho, he pauses by a potted plant, musing that compared to himself, Kazumiya Kaku is a bit. As a soft whirring sound fills the air. A soft whirring sound fills the air as he stands, lost in thought, the weight of his efforts pressing down on him. He considers the path he's walked, a quiet admission forming in his mind. Perhaps they had expected too much. His thoughts drift back to a pivotal moment, his first real job, a time when he stood before a grand building, reflecting on the crowds around him, a place that, despite the passage of time, seemed to remain unchanged. He remembers a kind, elderly woman, her smile warm, as they stood before a wall adorned with the faces of celebrities, a stark contrast to the quiet ambition he held within. A memory of a simple request echoes, taste it, followed by a moment of quiet disappointment, a small "oh dear," escaping him. Overheard whispers fill the air, questioning, but why did he become a ghost, and speculating. People are saying he's the one who caused the incident, lamenting the loss of the bright promise he held, and wondering, what happened to him? Later, in a bustling eatery, a younger Sangsub informs him that water and extra side dishes are self-serve, to which he simply replies, okay, as the sounds of clattering dishes fill the background. A cheerful voice announces to the room, enjoy your meal, everyone. The diners, including a younger Shin Suho and Sangsub, dig into their food with gusto, the sounds of satisfied chewing filling the air. He takes a bite, finding the taste unpleasant, though he wouldn't refuse to eat it. The orphanage manager, however, finds the taste unfamiliar, wondering if the owner had changed, remarking that he remembered it being much tastier. He apologizes for his earlier comment, but the young man quickly reassures him that he's not a picky eater and is simply glad they could finish the meal. With the dishes cleared, he asks if they should depart. The manager then mentions that they hadn't finished their bonus. As they walk outside, the manager questions the restaurant's reputation, suggesting it's more expensive than its soup is worth. Not long after, the manager sighs, expressing his concern. A hand reaches out, offering comfort. Looking up at a grand building in the night, the young man recognizes it as Master Kwan's manor, a place he knows well. Narumi Kuda, startled, turns to find an older man standing behind him, wondering when he arrived, though he quickly dismisses the thought as unimportant. He knows that to make the perfect hangover soup, the broth, which forms its very foundation, must be made by boiling beef bones for a full 24 hours. And when it's finally served in an earthen pot, topped with spicy sauce, it becomes a dish worthy of the chef's boss. Contemplating the process, Kuda wonders why they would ever source such a crucial ingredient from elsewhere, when the broth is the very soul of the soup. The older man, now identified as Mr. Park, explains that the customer didn't pay for it, implying she had the time to acquire the broth herself, but Kuda still doesn't quite understand. Just then, a sliding door opens, and Mr. Park announces his return. He greets Kuda, who welcomes him back, adding that he's doing well at the cafe thanks to Mr. Park. Mr. Park humbly dismisses the thanks, glad that he could be of assistance. He then considers taking a look at something, confident that there's nothing wrong with it. Still in the kitchen, Kuda flips through a recipe book, determined to find the perfect chili pepper doenjang sauce. His eyes glow with an intense green light as he scans the pages, muttering that there must be a recipe somewhere within. But Kangjin, holding an empty bowl, laments that he can't make anything without a proper recipe, finding nothing even remotely similar to what he needs. Kuda, however, offers to teach him, a proposition Kangjin eagerly accepts, calling him a lifesaver. Using only the ingredients available in the kitchen, and incorporating some techniques learned from the Joseon era, Kuda guides Kangjin through the intricate process of bringing the dish together. Kuda assures him it's simple, confident that Kangjin can now make it. Later, a spoonful of the finished dish is brought to the orphanage manager, who takes a delighted bite. He hums in satisfaction, declaring that nothing beats a bowl of this, the kind of meal that could fix the world, even after a rough morning. With a hearty laugh, the manager thanks Kangjin, proclaiming the dish absolutely delicious. Narumi Kuda offers to teach Lee Kangjin how to cook, suggesting his own skills might be useful. Kangjin, intrigued, asks if he would, as Kuda reveals his past as a chef at a famous establishment called The Diner, prompting Kangjin to acknowledge his expertise and ask for lessons, while a small, ghostly figure behind him reacts with surprise to the mention of garlic. Kuda explains that making garlic dishes will cause them to show up, leaving Kangjin utterly confused about who they could be. The Joseon Dr. Ghost, startled by the conversation, finds himself face-to-face with the chilling smile of Lady Sorbet, her blood-stained dress a stark contrast to his traditional attire. Back in the kitchen, Kuda questions why Kangjin never mentioned the ghosts, who retorts by asking why Kuda is even asking, since he himself is a ghost. Kuda, taken aback, admits he doesn't know why he's a ghost, and suggests Kangjin will find out if he ever becomes one too. Kangjin, his face contorted in anger, accuses Kuda of being a coward, scared of the maiden ghosts, before admitting his own fear stems from a debt he owes. Kuda ponders how ghosts could possibly earn money when they're already dead, reflecting on his own fortune to be working and earning at the diner, but a chilling thought crosses his mind. What happens if ghosts can't pay back their debts? The answer comes swiftly, as Shin Suho, accompanied by Mr. Lee, Sang-sub, and other suited figures from the JS Financial Group, declares that people will come to collect, with the Joseon Dr. Ghost looking distressed among them, clearly a target of their collection efforts. He stands with his associates in a sterile office, the weight of the process heavy in the air. After a ghost is caught, they are forced to submit to a debt teller, pleading for an extension, but the line is always long, and the documents rarely get approved in one go. If a ghost is rejected during the evaluation process, a heavy stamp descends, sealing their fate. The final word is clear: you're extinguished. Dying and being extinguished might sound similar, but they are fundamentally different. Death isn't the end. It's a new beginning. But getting extinguished, as Narumi Kuda explains to Lee Kangjin, is something far more absolute. It means literally disappearing, the true and utter end. The gravity of the explanation settles heavily on Narumi Kuda's face. Narumi Kuda stares down, a heavy realization settling over him. To be extinguished is to literally disappear, a fate that feels all too similar to his own. He ponders the logical next step, wondering if he must extinguish the ghosts as soon as possible. A memory surfaces, a past conversation where he was told that ghosts don't truly know what they resent. His blonde-haired self from that time apologizes, wishing he could do more to help, but the other man reassures him, insisting he hadn't brought it up to ask for anything. Snapping back to the present, Kuda places something down with a decisive motion, declaring his intention to move forward. A soft jingle accompanies his steps as he walks away. Later, leaning against a counter, he sighs, noting the disappointing lack of customers, a low rumble echoing his weariness. He tries to reassure himself that he'll be all right, but the thought quickly devolves into a frustrated cry. Suddenly, his phone buzzes with an unexpected notification. A new order has come in from Lee Kangjin. He continues to work diligently in the kitchen, preparing a spicy pork stir-fry, his movements practiced and efficient. Yet, a deep sadness lingers in his eyes as he recalls a past conversation, a quiet apology escaping his lips for someone named Young-soo. His colleague, Mr. Park, notices his somber mood, asking if he's all right, but he quickly reassures him that he's fine. Suddenly, a familiar figure, Lee Kong-jin, appears and embraces him tightly, startling him. Kong-jin explains he came because he missed him, having been busy with work. Kong-jin then takes a seat at a table, casually telling him not to worry and to get back to work, leaving both him and Mr. Park looking utterly bewildered. Still processing the unexpected visit, he asks if Kong-jin is there for table 3, who confirms and requests a bottle of soju. He glances at the order slip, confirming the soju request. As he serves, Kong-jin asks if he's still working part-time and living at the orphanage, to which he nods, before Kong-jin suddenly proposes, "Then, why don't you live with me?" leaving Mr. Park utterly stunned. Still reeling from the unexpected proposal, he and Mr. Park are momentarily distracted by a customer's order. As Kong-jin, seemingly oblivious to their shock, continues to speak. Inside the kitchen, Mr. Park expresses his concern about the sheer volume of the order. But Kong-jin interrupts, casually presenting a sleek, black VVP card. Then points to a nearby restaurant, making an even more outrageous offer. Mr. Park is utterly dumbfounded by the sight of the card, recognizing it as a JS Finance VVIP card, and questions its utility for such a large purchase. Kong-jin clarifies that it's not for discounts, but rather a direct source of funds, leaving Kuda to ponder the implications of such an overwhelming proposition. A steaming dish sits, untouched, as the weight of recent events settles in, a silent thought echoing that no one has time for themselves anymore. In the kitchen, Kuda and Mr. Park exchange nervous glances, Kuda wondering why he feels so anxious, while Mr. Park understands the sentiment as a fellow cook. Meanwhile, Kahaku reflects on the unexpected customers, noting that she didn't recognize anyone from the Kazamiya family, nor did she see anyone resembling their son. Elsewhere, Lee Kong-jin takes a bite, a look of mild disgust crossing his face, confirming his earlier assessment that the food simply doesn't taste good. He continues to chew, a faint ugh escaping him as he struggles through the meal. Despite his dissatisfaction, he continues to munch and nom, finishing his plate. Later, Kuda sits, visibly distressed, as the orphanage manager offers him a drink, reminding him that sometimes, one has to wash away their troubles with alcohol. Kuda hesitates at the suggestion of a drink, but the orphanage manager quickly orders a soju and 2 beers, along with a few extra glasses. With a clink and a pop, the orphanage manager begins to mix the drinks, reminiscing about his old days making soju and beer cocktails, hoping he still remembers how to get it right after so long. As the orphanage manager prepares a drink, he muses aloud about his unique method, a secret technique he knows will make it taste exceptionally good. With a soft whoosh, the liquid within the glass begins to glow with a vibrant, golden-orange hue, a testament to the manager's special touch. Narumi Kuda takes the glass, his expression still troubled, admitting he can't taste anything. He brings the glass to his lips, taking a deep gulp of the glowing liquid. A powerful sensation washes over him, his eyes flaring with a crimson glow, as a sound of pure satisfaction escapes his lips. The orphanage manager beams, watching the young man's reaction, proudly asking if he still has his touch. Kuda, now looking completely revitalized, confirms the perfect balance of the drink, while the manager reveals he used his own secret method. Seeing the enthusiastic response, the manager turns to the other customers, offering them a glass as well, to which they eagerly agree. With a wide, confident smile, the orphanage manager declares he will show everyone what he's capable of. The orphanage manager, his gray hair slightly glowing, carefully prepares another of his special concoctions, the liquid sloshing gently as he pours it into a glass. Meanwhile, Narumi Kuda sits across from Kazamiya Kahaku, reflecting on his past struggles, admitting that he had a child and his restaurant wasn't doing well, leaving him no choice but to accept an offer he couldn't refuse. He recalls the immense pressure to make things work, the constant battle to keep his business afloat, and the difficult relationships with other restaurant owners. Sitting alone, Kuda acknowledges the many secret burdens he carried, having poured his entire being into keeping the restaurant going. A sniffle escapes him as he confesses to the orphanage manager that he doesn't think he can endure it any longer, while the manager listens with concern, murmuring Madame O. The manager's expression hardens, his fist clenching with a resounding pound thump, as he passionately declares, "This soup is what proved my dedication in foods." How could he do this? Kuda, looking resolute, acknowledges that the hangover soup became famous thanks to Madame O's blood, sweat, and tears, and now he feels he is ruining the restaurant she entrusted to him. The manager, overwhelmed with emotion, cries out please, as he laments the thought of his restaurant being run into the ground, his desperate shout echoing through the space. Inside the restaurant, lights flicker erratically, a sudden flash momentarily illuminating the disarray as a voice challenges Narumi Kuda, asking if he intends to let his business fail. He looks utterly distraught, lamenting the lifetime of effort his aunt poured into building the establishment. The ghost of the Josian doctor stands beside him, observing the scene as Kuda recalls how the restaurant's signature hangover soup enabled his aunt's children to pursue their education and marry. Sitting alone, He acknowledges the harsh truth. Customers only came for the hangover soup, and without it, the restaurant couldn't survive. The Dr. Ghost, with a wide, knowing smile, offers a simple solution, suggesting that if a tastier hangover soup existed, customers would flock to it instead. He leans in, his smile unwavering, declaring that Kuda can recreate the soup's original taste, just as it was when he was alive. Later, in a news setting, Kuda, now dressed in a suit, expresses disbelief, questioning if he's truly selling hangover soup. The scene shifts to a modern, towering building, implying a significant change in circumstances. Inside, Lee Kongjin claps him on the shoulder, praising him as the true successor of Hangover Lee, while Kuda looks on, surprised. Narumi Kuda, now impeccably dressed in a suit, explains his new business model, stating that he's decided to sell his acclaimed hangover soup only on weekends, limiting reservations to 60 per day. Meanwhile, Lee Kongjin, sipping his drink, considers the strategy, believing there must be a significant reason behind Kuda's decision to sell in such a limited capacity. His curiosity piqued, he wonders what secrets Kuda holds. Back at the office, Shin Suho asks Kuda about the reservation process, inquiring how many people he's currently booking for, to which Kuda replies, 3 for now. Shin Suho then enthusiastically declares his intention to enjoy the soup with soju, predicting that many others will follow suit, seeking the perfect hangover cure. As Shin Suho sits at his desk, a sudden knock interrupts his thoughts, drawing his attention to an incoming call. He dismisses a colleague's whispered concern about being underpaid, insisting that he has no intention of transitioning to a salaried position. Turning back to Kuda, Shin Suho admits he didn't expect much from him initially, but acknowledges his impressive work ethic, stating that Kuda's skill is all that truly matters. Kuda, however, reflects on the situation, noting that everyone else gives Dong-hee a lot of work, and he had assumed Dong-hee would be the one to receive such an offer. He walks alongside a colleague, a box tucked under his arm, pondering the fine line between kindness and cruelty in business. After all, from a company's perspective, it's only natural for a full-time employee to work full-time, even if they also own a business, a thought that passes through his mind with a quiet swish. His bald superior observes him, noting his honesty, though finding him a bit peculiar, yet acknowledging his value as a diligent worker. He sits at his desk, a sigh escaping him, as the thought of taking a full-time position and the implications for his future weigh heavily. He imagines a life as a full-time employee with a stable income, a life where he wouldn't have to run the diner anymore. Yet, even in this imagined scenario, a question lingers. What would become of the hangover soup and the ghost residing within him? The thought brings him back to the bustling reality of his diner, where he stands amidst smiling customers, a look of deep concern on his face. This place, his diner, is more than just an eatery. It is the very border between the worlds of the living and the dead. It is the soul sanctuary where wandering spirits can finally find their bodies once more. Thank you so much for the offer, a young man named Dong-hee thinks to himself, but he has to run his diner for 5 years, so he can't come to work full-time. Well, all right, a colleague responds, as Dong-hee sits across from him in the office. Are you busy, Dong-hee? Siri asks, leaning forward slightly. Oh no, Siri, Dong-hee replies, I just finished my report for Chief, but Siri quickly adds that there's still more work to be done. He continues to type, always giving his best, as the narration notes, doing things that work out for him. Suddenly, the scene shifts back to the diner, where Kuda stands wide-eyed, startled by something, as the orphanage manager exclaims, whoa. He holds a steaming bowl of food, its aroma filling the air, and declares, yes, it smells amazing. He takes a deep breath, savoring the rich aroma before taking a spoonful. The taste is exquisite, a perfect blend where the spicy seasoning and blood curds burst with flavor, complemented by the bone broth and dried blood noodles. The orphanage manager explains that it's simply because he pairs it with a drink, adding that if you drink soju, you'll want another spoonful. Kuda, clearly satisfied, agrees, and the manager offers to serve him more. And so, it finally begins. A hand places a glass down with a soft clunk. Manager Park, beaming, exclaims that the meal was incredibly good. Manager Yu agrees, finding it hard to believe that gems like this are still around nowadays, while Manager Park simply confirms its deliciousness. However, Manager Park then wonders aloud why there aren't any other customers here. Still reeling from the manager's words, Narumi Kuda can't help but feel a pang of frustration, wondering why the diner isn't making money despite the delicious food. He knows the manager is a kind man, but the reality is stark. This hand-over soup isn't generating any profit. A determined glint in his eye, he resolves that if he can just attract some real customers to the diner, things will surely turn around. He thinks of the diner's impending closure and the manager's kind heart, knowing he can't let this place go out of business. Meanwhile, at a nearby table, Manager Park and Manager Yu finish their meal, praising the delicious food and the manager's skill, though they note the diner's unusual emptiness. As they prepare to leave, they thank the orphanage manager for the meal, the small bell above the door jingling softly. Outside, Manager Park remarks that the diner also sells hand-over soup, prompting Manager Yu to ask how they might acquire some. Manager Yu, however, dismisses the idea, suggesting there's a better place down the road for what they're looking for. With another soft jingle of the bell, the two men walk away from the diner, leaving it once again in quiet solitude. As he and Manager Park settled in, Narumi Kuda approached their table, informing them that additional side dishes and water were self-serve, prompting Manager Yu to remark on the quick service. The two managers began to eat, the sounds of their utensils clattering softly in the otherwise quiet diner. Suddenly, Manager Park turned to his companion, demanding to know why he had claimed the place was good, before quickly retracting, suggesting they must have changed the recipe. Manager Yu, looking equally displeased, muttered that they should have gone elsewhere, then, noticing his boss's distraction, reminded him that the manager was looking for him. Ignoring the warning, Manager Park's gaze drifted, his expression souring as he pointed out a couple of flies. His annoyance was palpable. Kongjin, Manager Lee, had revealed everything. Now, Shin Suho asks, his voice laced with a hint of desperation, if Narumi Kuda is truly the only one who understands his passion for golf practice, to which Kuda responds with a hesitant, "Oh well." A bead of sweat trickles down Suho's temple as Kuda firmly states he can only prepare 60 servings each day. Undeterred, Suho demands, he'll take 5 right then. Kuda's eyes widen in surprise, realizing that with Suho's parents, that would make 10 servings. He apologizes, explaining that he can only make exactly 60 servings, but offers to put Suho down for next week. Suho, now desperate, offers Kuda 10,000 won for a seat, but Kuda corrects him, clarifying that 1 PSV is 10,000 won for that spot. Suho immediately UPS his offer to 15,000, making Kuda wonder if everyone is truly willing to pay that much for a spot. Kuda groans in frustration, as Suho laments the overwhelming demand and lack of available reservation slots. Back in the office, Shin Suho, still preoccupied with the reservation issue, attempts to delegate tasks, suggesting he'll make copies while instructing Donghee not to pay attention to him, as he always does, before bringing up next week's reservations. He reiterates his intention to make copies, but Donghee, holding a stack of papers, insists on discussing the reservations later. Suddenly, Donghee dashes away, leaving Suho to call out his name, frustrated that it's too much to handle alone. Suho mutters to himself, telling Donghee to butt out, then questions what just happened. He then shouts, accusing Donghee of not taking his internship seriously, and warns him not to think his shallow tricks will work on him. Turning away, Suho clutches his clipboard. His face contorted in frustration as he thinks about Donghee's stupid tricks, which he believes are designed to get the manager's attention. Meanwhile, Donghee looks on, his expression one of shock and fear. As Suho walks away, Donghee follows behind him, telling him to stop being so loud. Donghee stands silently, his gaze averted, a quiet tension lingering from the recent confrontation. From behind him, Shin Suho's voice cuts through the office chatter, dismissing any notion that Donghee has been helpful, his thoughts betraying a deeper frustration that the man remains nonchalant about his work, unlike other employees. Suho continues, asserting that competence isn't inherently bad, as Donghee shoulders slump slightly under the weight of the criticism. Donghee finally responds, admitting the situation makes him uncomfortable. The scene shifts abruptly to a bustling street, the sounds of distant chatter echoing around a tall building. As a crucial detail emerges, 2 reservations have been made for tomorrow night. Suddenly, Donghee is seen in a restaurant, apron-clad, his eyes wide as he exclaims about the reservations, while a customer, Sang-sub, asks for another plate of kimchi. Another customer, a young man with light brown hair, savors his meal, marveling at the rich flavor. The orphanage manager, seated nearby, agrees, admitting that even blood curd tastes good when prepared this well. The young man then asks if the hangover soup reminds the manager of a local spot, to which the manager quickly replies that this version is far superior. Donghee watches the orphanage manager, who is busy preparing food, as he mutters about the increasing number of customers. The manager's thoughts drift to a past conversation, recalling a time when he was told that people don't really eat out anymore, and that there had been a decrease in customers. Back in the present, the manager looks around the bustling kitchen, a stark contrast to his memory, and wonders if people truly don't eat out anymore, a question that now seems absurd. Donghee, noticing the manager's pensive expression, inquires if something is wrong. Meanwhile, the front door chimes, and Narumi Kuda greets a new customer with a cheerful welcome. The customer, Sang-sub, looks surprised to see Narumi Kuda working there, who then pleads with him to keep their encounter quiet, suggesting they need to go down a bit to discuss it. Back in the kitchen, Donghee, still concerned, asks the manager if the restaurant is doing well, to which the manager replies with a hesitant, okay. Narumi Kuda, now talking to Sang-sub, explains that the restaurant is struggling, mentioning that it's a competing store that they can't tell anyone about. Suddenly, the orphanage manager rushes out of the kitchen, followed closely by Donghee, who urgently asks where he's going. A man with a stern expression fumes, unable to accept the situation, declaring that they cannot simply stand by while their customers are stolen away. Meanwhile, in the afterlife diner, the kitchen is a flurry of activity, with pots boiling and ingredients frying, as Narumi Kuda and the orphanage manager diligently prepare their dishes. With a determined glint in his eye, Narumi Kuda resolves that he will personally investigate the competition. The rival chef, still seething, wonders aloud just how good their overnight soup truly is. For Narumi Kuda, the weekdays are structured, with his regular job running from 9 in the morning to 6 in the evening, but his true work begins after hours. Once his day job concludes, he opens the diner from 6 in the evening until 1 in the morning, catering exclusively to ghosts. On the weekends, however, he shifts his focus, making and selling hangover soup to human customers. The steam rises from a rich, simmering pot, a testament to his dedication, as he reflects that he has performed plenty of manual labor in his life before. He continues to wipe down a glass, complaining about his ridiculous schedule and the exhaustion it brings, feeling as though he's on the verge of collapse from overwork. The Josian Dr. Ghost observes him, noting the clear signs of someone unaccustomed to such strenuous manual labor. A soft sniff escapes the ghost, while Kuda, considering his options, suggests hiring a part-timer for the weekends, asking for the ghost's opinion. The ghost ponders, raising a practical concern. A living person, if frequently exposed to ghosts for extended periods, would regularly come into contact with them. Kuda, slightly impatient, asks for clarification. He dismisses the immediate problem, realizing it's not the core issue, as his mind drifts to a past filled with manual labor, a type of work he still finds himself utterly unaccustomed to, no matter how much he thinks about it. He then considers the ghost's point from a different angle, wondering how a normal person would react if even he, who works directly with ghosts, still gets surprised by them. Turning to the ghost, he begins to articulate his conclusion, realizing the full implications. With a determined glance, he acknowledges the truth. The only ones who can truly see ghosts are other ghosts. The Josian Dr. Ghost offers a knowing smile. Narumi Kuda slams a bowl down onto the table, the sound echoing sharply in the quiet restaurant. A customer, seemingly pleased, exclaims, "Now that really hits the spot." He then points to a different bottle of soju, correcting Kuda, No, that customer likes this soju, not that one." Kuda, holding 2 bottles, responds with a questioning, "Oh, really?" The demanding man continues, now focusing on his food. "Wow, I didn't even know there was manna in this. You brought something different. I only drink." He then adds another specific request, and the connoisseur adds less black pepper. "So put a little more in his soup." Back in the kitchen, Kuda's frustration boils over, muttering to himself about the customer's audacity. "I knew Madame O rarely ordered this for a long time, but I can't believe he's asking for a customized order even after drinking a shot." Unaware of Kuda's internal struggle, the customer savors his meal, declaring, "It's so good." He then asks for more. "Can I have some more kimchi soup?" Kuda, trying to maintain his composure, politely declines. "I'm sorry, but the kimchi soup has to be ordered in advance." The customer's face contorts in anger, yelling, "Chinsu. Oh dear, you darn ingrate," as Kuda looks on in shock. Now that he sees him up close, the man is so much like Kong Jin's son, a fact that makes Kahaku gasp softly. Then, a voice announces their arrival, as hands reach out for something. Kuda looks startled, the realization dawning on him that he is indeed Kong Jin's son. With a confident smile, Kuda reveals he anticipated this day, having prepared extra batches of soup. He then presents the Seonji Hangbone soup, specifically made for the demanding customer. The customer questions if the soup might be too sweet, but the orphanage manager, standing nearby, confidently asserts that he knows Kuda's preferences, having raised him. A hand carries the ordered Seonji Hangbone soup, ready to be served. Both the customer and the manager exchange surprised glances, a silent understanding passing between them. Kuda looks down, a clatter echoing as he scoops something, the manager watching him intently. As if crafting something precious, a glass rod is carefully heated, its tip glowing orange. The demanding customer, Lee Kanjin, continues to eat the soup, savoring each mouthful. He takes another deep gulp, the rich flavors clearly resonating with him. With a final, satisfied slurp, he firmly sets the bowl down. His gaze falls upon the empty bowl, a profound realization dawning in his eyes as a soft light emanates from within it. Reaching out, his voice drops, "Excuse me, do you happen to know my mother?" Kuda, still holding his arm, exclaims that he must have liked the taste, while the orphanage manager looks on, stunned. The manager's mind races, recalling the name Oh Soo-young, an author who once owned a manhwa publishing company, who passed away many years ago. With a gentle gesture, the manager confirms his acquaintance, inviting Lee Kanjin to discuss it further over a drink, offering to pay. Kuda, still holding a bottle, reflects on the manager's words, wondering if he truly knows his mother. He continues to ponder the manager's connection to his mother, while the manager simply instructs him to sit. Meanwhile, a new customer, a woman with a stern expression, approaches the counter, inquiring about a hangover soup. The manager takes a sip from a cup, prompting the woman to question his actions. Slamming her hand down on the table, she angrily declares that the soup is supposed to cure hangovers, not cause them. The manager flinches slightly at her outburst, as she continues to complain that the hangover soup doesn't even taste like hangover soup. Her eyes widen in disbelief, utterly shocked by something the manager has just said or done. The orphanage manager attempts to soothe the agitated customer, but Kuda, observing from behind, quietly agrees with the complaint. He attempts to explain, his voice trailing off, but the words seem to catch in his throat. He insists that he has tried, emphasizing the daily struggle of maintaining such quality, stating that it's not easy to make it like this every single day. His words are underscored by the grueling reality of his work, constantly tending to the broth throughout the night, then facing mountains of vegetables that need cutting. His knife slices and chops with practiced precision. Even rolling the dough for the noodles is a task that consumes the entire night, long before the restaurant even opens its doors. The meat requires all-day cooking, a relentless cycle that repeats endlessly, day after day, just to produce that single hangover soup. Kuda reflects that he might have made the same choices if faced with such relentless daily demands, but a deeper thought lingers. He wonders about his own mother and the choices she made. He continues, asking if the madam truly dedicated over 50 years of hard work, never once considering using pre-made broth or ingredients. The manager's words hang in the air, as Kuda recalls a sign he once saw at a restaurant entrance, which read, "Delicious hangover soup is made with love, ingredients, and sincerity." He closes his eyes, reflecting on the profound meaning behind those words. A memory surfacing of a younger manager, smiling alongside another man, both embodying that very sincerity. Delicious hangover soup is made with love, ingredients, and sincerity. The image of the sign, glowing brightly, reaffirms his contemplation of what it means to live a life of such dedication, an uncle life. He remembers a time when his passion for his work consumed him, a time when he felt his own presence was always secondary to her handmade soup. She had told him she would feel sorry for the customers if she didn't serve soup every single day, a commitment that meant she never spent a weekend with him at all. And for that, he had resented her. The golden particles of memory shimmer around him as he walks away. A woman's voice, filled with sorrow, echoing his wife's words. "Honey, you completely neglected your family because you were so obsessed with your business. Didn't you want to do that?" In another memory, a younger man, perhaps a colleague, defends his own dedication, explaining that he was doing it out of concern for their chief's customers, knowing they would have been disappointed, then asks, after tasting the soup, "What do you think?" The woman gently takes his arm, both of them caught in a moment of shared sadness. As the younger man from the kitchen stands bathed in a soft blue glow, lost in thought, the orphanage manager looks down, a silent ellipsis hanging in the air as the golden particles continue to swirl around him, a poignant echo of his past. He sits, head bowed, the rhythmic beeping of a machine filling the silence, a name echoing in his mind, Yamazaki. The beeping continues, a constant reminder of a past promise, a vow he made to provide proper care, all thanks to that noodle soup. He remembers the taste, a promise for a whole life, a desperate plea to fulfill that promise for Yamazaki. Suddenly, his eyes snap open, glowing with an intense, almost supernatural resolve, the beeping now a deafening roar in his ears. His hand clenches around a glass, a silent declaration forming within him. He lifts the glass, gulping down its contents, a desperate act of self-comfort or perhaps a renewed commitment. Then, with a resounding slam, he sets the empty glass down. His face hardens, a fierce determination replacing his earlier despair, as he declares, "No." A faint, golden aura now surrounds him, a resolute smile gracing his lips as he vows, "You'll never beat me." Narumi Kuda looks down, a quiet anticipation settling over him as he considers that the original will soon return. And he finds himself looking forward to it. Later, speaking with the orphanage manager, Kuda insists he is a good kid. His expression earnest. He then hesitantly begins to ask if he could do something, only for the manager to lean in and quietly instruct him to follow someone. Later, seated together, the manager reassures Kuda that he will understand everything when the time is right. With a renewed sense of purpose, Kuda is then urged to hurry and go. The orphanage manager watches the children, a gentle smile on his face, hoping things go well for them. His thoughts drift to the future, a quiet wish for their continued well-being echoing against the city skyline. A few days later, back at the restaurant, Narumi Kuda sighs in relief as the lunch service finally concludes, but his mind immediately shifts to the next task. Before him stands a daunting monument of dirty dishes, a colossal stack that seems to mock his efforts. The sheer volume is disgusting, and he knows he still needs to prepare for the dinner service. Feeling utterly overwhelmed, he wonders how he'll ever get to dinner preparations if he has to wash all these dishes first. The orphanage manager, noticing his struggle, suggests he should just quit if he's so busy, but Kuda insists he doesn't want to be a burden. Taking a deep breath, a golden aura of resolve flares around him, as he declares that now is indeed the time for action. His eyes glow with fierce determination, his resolve hardening into an unshakable will. He is suddenly airborne, slammed through the air with a violent force that kicks up a cloud of dust. Landing hard on the ground, he looks up to see a tall figure looming over him. His head throbs from the impact, and he can only manage a dazed, "Did you have to be so rude like that?" With a final, heavy thud, he collapses completely. Now standing, Kuda looks exasperated, muttering, "I don't believe it. I told you not to tell anyone," as the other man simply scoffs, "Really?" Lee Kongjin, however, is already turning to leave, declaring, "What the hell? I'm leaving if you're not busy." Kuda quickly interjects, "Hey, what's the rush? Were you in the middle of something?" Kongjin pauses, then gestures emphatically, explaining that he was snooping inside the hangover soup restaurant. He continues, his expression earnest, "They looked really determined. They say they'll bring back the taste of the original." As Kongjin beams with enthusiasm, Kuda looks on with a mix of surprise and concern, while Donghi and Sang-sub watch the exchange from a distance. Narumi Kuda, looking content in the kitchen, notes that Madam O should be finishing up soon. Lee Kongjin then presses him, asking if he needs to gross over, wondering if there isn't at least some small detail he might remember about the restaurant's past. Kongjin dismisses the notion, looking at a simmering pot, and asks if he was summoned just for such a question. He then clarifies, stating that he simply wanted to help somehow, and offers to be informed if Kuda feels like visiting somewhere. A small smile plays on Kuda's lips as he realizes Kongjin's true intentions, the other man returning the gesture with a knowing grin. Kongjin, now fully engaged, playfully tells Kuda to step aside, before asking exactly what he's supposed to be doing. As the two begin working together, Kuda expresses his genuine gratitude to the young master, admitting he hadn't expected his help, while Sang-sub and Dong-hee watch the unexpected scene unfold. The sound of liquid swirling and a soft clash echoes through the kitchen as the cooking process continues. With a soft shing sound, the stirring continues as one asks if the other likes it that much, urging them to keep going. He leans in close, a playful smirk on his face, declaring his intention to savor the cooking, while the chef, holding a small block of butter, simply tells him to enjoy himself. Meanwhile, from a distance, Sang-sub and Dong-hee watch the unusual scene unfold, Sang-sub musing that he could also buy something, but questioning why the blonde man isn't doing what he's supposed to, deciding they should monitor the situation. Dong-hee, equally perplexed, remarks that it's the first time he's seen those two in their restaurant, but then complains that Sang-sub is blocking his view and asks him to move. Back in the kitchen, the blonde man confidently states that he's no longer selling leftover soup, so he'll be fine, then instructs the chef to go keep Madame O company, to which the chef meekly agrees. With a flurry of precise movements, hands expertly chop various vegetables, preparing the ingredients. The chef then takes over, tossing the ingredients high into the air with a practiced flick of the wrist, the sound of the pan echoing through the kitchen. Soon, two exquisite dishes are plated, one being gently tapped, the sounds of clack and clank accompanying their presentation. Wiping his brow with a relieved phew, the chef looks at his creations, satisfied that this should be enough. However, his moment of triumph is abruptly shattered as he looks up, startled, repeatedly calling out a name in shock. Still reeling from the sudden, unseen presence, Kuda stands frozen in the kitchen. Meanwhile, Kongjin cautiously peeks from behind a counter, covering his ears as if to block out an unseen disturbance, a silent tension filling the air. Kuda, turning his head slightly, calls out a name with a desperate edge, his voice echoing the profound shock he feels. Kim Soo-hee. Kim Soo-hee. Then, as if trying to play off his panic, he forces a strained smile, muttering, "I guess not all ghosts show up when you call their name 3 times. But his attempt at humor falls flat as a menacing figure in red appears before him, her presence radiating an aura of pure dread, making him question if he can even move. Her long, dark hair cascades around her, and a chilling glare emanates from her form, blood dripping from her legs onto the pristine floor. Her eyes glow with an intense, malevolent red, as she demands, "Why do you bother me so?" Clutching a sword, the figure looks down with disdain, a dismissive scoff escaping her lips. A chilling presence manifests behind Kuda, who stands frozen, unable to move as a spectral figure asks if he can do anything for her. The figure's glowing red eyes fixate on him, demanding to know why he bothers her so. A terrified scream escapes Kuda's lips, as the woman, Kim Soo-hee, mockingly greets him, wondering why he's so surprised and scared by her appearance. Still reeling from the shock, Kuda stammers that anyone would be surprised to see her appear like that, explaining he only wanted to serve her some food. Soo-hee ponders if she looks like a ghost, then concludes that if so, she must be ugly. However, she quickly decides to believe he's simply admiring her. Kuda, trying to appease her, offers to bring out everything he has, but she curtly refuses. With a single step, Kim Soo-hee turns and announces her return at 8 o'clock. As she vanishes, the restaurant erupts in a sudden, fiery blaze around a stunned Kuda. Time ticks by in the quiet restaurant, marked only by the soft gulping and glugging sounds of a drink being consumed. A moment later, a sigh escapes the air as the clock's minute hand reaches the hour. As Kuda serves his customer, she muses aloud, wondering why he was so surprised by her sudden appearance, then dismisses it, stating it's not important. She takes another sip, acknowledging the drink's quality, though it pales in comparison to the best wine she has ever tasted. Wiping down the counter, Kuda can only wonder what kind of wine she could possibly be referring to. With a slight smirk, she assures him he will have the opportunity to drink it one day. Still perplexed, he stares at a fan, unable to guess the nature of the drink she's consuming. Suddenly, as he moves, Kuda bumps into something unseen. He tumbles to the floor, startled, as Kim Soo-hee calmly informs him he dropped something, prompting his flustered thanks. With careful hands, a glass is placed on the counter, its contents frothing gently, as the server reflects on his recent clumsiness, feeling a touch of self-reproach. A soft "oh" escapes him, as the woman seated before him remarks that reflecting on one's actions and offering apologies is a commendable trait. His gaze then falls upon a delicate, traditional talisman, intricately woven with knots, a piece of art in itself. She explains that she chose it specifically because she believed its colors would suit him, expressing a hope that he would find it to his liking. Her expression softens as she confesses that this is the first time she has received anything like it, a sentiment that stretches back over 400 years. A look of profound surprise crosses Kuda's face as he cautiously asks if she means since after she died. In a vision of her past, adorned in traditional attire, she clarifies that she did receive several things immediately after becoming a ghost, though some were far more precious than others. A glowing, ornate object, surrounded by flickering candles, symbolizes these precious items, as she muses on how others discovered their existence. Through a dark, ominous forest, with unseen eyes glowing red in the distance, she reflects that she believed these items were meant for those who truly needed them, and thus, she rejected those who sought them for their own selfish motives. She continues, her voice carrying the weight of centuries, confessing that it has been a long time since she truly communicated with another person, a soft "ha" escaping her lips. Kuda processes this, realizing the profound loneliness she must have endured, wondering if she's been alone for all that time. He knows she is a powerful ghost, capable of wielding her abilities, but the thought of her wandering the earth alone for the last 400 years paints a starker picture. What could possibly lead someone to feel such profound disappointment? He muses, as a flashback shows a hand releasing a red talisman into a pool of blood, bathed in an ominous crimson glow. A distinct clack echoes as a glowing, ornate piece is recovered and placed carefully into a bowl. Back in the present, Kuda jolts, startled by her words, as she warns him he shouldn't have said that, explaining that other ghosts don't know she stays too long. He tries to reassure her, noting that other ghosts come in all the time, then hesitates, asking her to please. A soft hee-hee escapes him, a nervous smile on his face, while in a fleeting memory, she gazes at a glowing object with a subtle glance. He wonders if he's being too pushy, sweat beading on his forehead as he frets over his questions. A soft clink echoes through the quiet diner kitchen. While elsewhere, the Josian Doctor Ghost holds a small, glowing object, promising to see someone when they are done. His crimson robes shimmer in the light. Back in the diner, the irresistible scent of garlic fills the air as Kim Soo-hee and her companions enjoy a meal, the aroma proving too hard to resist. Much to Kuda's surprise, who questions how they simply walked in. He insists it's basic instinct, comparing it to a lion not snatching food from a dog, even when starving. Prompting Kim Soo-hee to explain that not all ghosts are the same, and that there are different kinds. The revelation that ghosts have many rules causes Kuda to stagger, the weight of this new information settling upon him. He slides a dish across the counter, offering a warm welcome to new arrivals. But before the words can fully register, a figure stumbles dramatically into the diner, collapsing to the floor. Two other women lie sprawled nearby, while a third, standing tall, remarks on the unexpected warmth of the place, as Kuda asks if the fallen man is all right. A wave of embarrassment washes over the young man, while the fallen figure can only manage a confused grunt. The standing woman turns her sharp gaze to the man now struggling to his feet, demanding to know his problem. She scolds him for spitting, reminding him of the effort involved, as he lets out a pained cry. From the counter, Kuda recognizes the man, surprised by his sudden appearance. She observes that he still isn't breathing, prompting him to question if she brought him there, believing him to be alive. She clarifies her intention was precisely to make him breathe, especially at such an hour. The tension culminates as a ceramic bowl shatters into pieces. Still reeling from the previous chaos, Kuda finds himself on the floor, a green-haired woman towering over him, pan in hand. She scoffs, reminding him, "I went easy on you because it's your first day as a ghost," before demanding, "So where's my thank you?" Terror seizing him, he scrambles away, a desperate cry escaping his lips as he flees. With a furious roar, she brings her pan down, glowing with an ominous green light, screaming, "Die!" Kazamiya Kahaku stands over Narumi Kuda, who lies defeated on the floor, a pan still clutched in her hand. Her green hair glows faintly as she declares she went easy on him for his first day as a ghost, then demands her reward. But Kuda, enraged by her words, springs to his feet, charging forward with a furious yell. Kahaku, unfazed, raises her pan once more, ready to strike. Before Kuda can reach her, a sudden, unseen force grabs his arm, stopping him mid-lunge. The Josian Doctor Ghost appears, holding Kuda firmly with one hand and pressing a knife to his throat, silencing his protests. He calmly addresses Kahaku, advising her that Kuda is already doomed and that her involvement is unnecessary, adding that he himself has barely begun. Kuda, still held captive, struggles and shouts, demanding to know who the mysterious figure is. The Doctor Ghost, maintaining his composure, pulls Kuda closer by the collar, and with a serene expression, simply states that he is just one human. Then, with a sudden burst of speed, he rushes away, leaving the two bewildered individuals behind. A man in a suit leans over Narumi Kuda, who sits on the floor, declaring, "I know exactly who you are." Kuda, startled, can only manage a confused, "What?" The man continues, detailing Kuda's situation. "You're 23 years old, you dropped out of school, but more importantly, you're a customer of our bank." He then reveals the staggering amount. "I have more assets than you can imagine. You're speaking of $1 million USD. The man points to a document, his voice rising as he declares, he owed $10 million. "That's why we're here to collect the debt." Kuda, bewildered, mutters, "Geez, I'm at -14 billion. The man laughs, mocking him, Are you a serial scammer or something? What on earth did you do to owe that much? He continues to press. You're from, what? Do you mean you're a scam from some third-tier bank? Kuda, having had enough, calmly states. Now, let's just be calm and I'm going to sign here, before delivering a sharp smack. The man recoils, papers flying as Kuda snarls. You son of a bitch. How dare a low-tier trash bank like yours try to pull a scam on me? The force of the blow sends the man stumbling backward, his documents scattering across the floor. The man Kuda had struck, now on the ground, demanded he pick up the scattered papers. His face contorted in rage, he accused Kuda of being an uncultured swine, claiming he knew he was being scammed the moment force was used. With a furious glare, he reiterated his command for Kuda to retrieve the documents. But Kuda simply tapped his shoulder, a dismissive gesture that spoke volumes. The man stumbled back, falling to the floor, before reluctantly agreeing to pick up the papers, muttering for Kuda to calm down. Observing the scene from a distance, Kahaku remarked that she had never seen Mr. Kong so angry, asking Kuda if the documents were truly important. He confirmed they were, and that they were related to the debt. Kuda explained that a multi-billion won debt needed to be settled, admitting that while Mr. Kang's attitude wasn't great, his own anger stemmed from the gravity of the situation. Meanwhile, Kim Soo-hee, observing from an undisclosed location, smirked, musing that Kuda's terrible attitude stemmed from his ignorance about the executive director's daughter and the fact that he was still broke. Back with Kahaku, Kuda revealed the devastating truth. The bakery was still going bankrupt in a year, leaving both of them in shock and despair. Shin Soo-ho, ever the meticulous lawyer, presents a certificate detailing Kuda's liability for manslaughter due to drunk driving, along with other supporting documents. He continues, explaining the circumstances of the incident, that Kuda had been driving while intoxicated. The lawyer details how Kuda drifted out of his lane, causing a collision with an oncoming car, and tragically, the other driver died. Therefore, he concludes, Kuda is responsible for paying compensation to the victim's family. Kuda, visibly distressed, questions why he should pay for a dead man, dismissing the idea as ridiculous, prompting Shin Soo-ho to offer a more profound explanation. With a glass of water in hand, Shin Soo-ho begins an analogy, suggesting the water represents the total time each person is allotted to exist. He continues, explaining that the portion of time a person spends in the living world is merely a tiny fraction, like the small amount of water clinging to his finger after a quick dip. The remaining water in the glass, he reveals, represents the vast expanse of time one spends in the afterlife. Shin Soo-ho explains that the small amount of water clinging to his finger represents the brief time spent in the living world, while the vast quantity remaining in the glass signifies the eternity of the afterlife. He continues, stating that all sins committed will be repaid in full, regardless of the time one has in the afterlife, according to its laws. Kuda, visibly shaken, can only stammer, I didn't want to kill anyone. It was an accident. Shin Soo-ho remains unyielding, reminding him that the afterlife laws consider the consequences of his actions, not his intentions, and that the repercussions of his sin are already being committed. He then presents a document, his voice firm as he asks, is that clear enough for you? The lawyer continues, explaining that the reality is that Kuda must pay for his own actions, and that under the laws of the afterlife, he is held responsible for the manslaughter he committed, regardless of his intent. Kuda's face contorts in a grimace of despair as he reads the document, his mind reeling from the implications. Once you've reviewed the documents, I'll explain your 3-day mourning period. Then, I'll guide you to the compensation process. What's the meaning of this? He swallows hard, the weight of the words crushing him as he hears. After your 3-day mourning period, a law administration officer will come and escort you to the afterlife. His eyes widen in terror, the full horror of his situation dawning on him. And after that, the ground beneath him seemed to give way, his foot slipping as the full weight of his impending fate began to settle. After that, the sins committed with his words, his money, his body, and his mind would combine into a single, inescapable debt. This debt had caused others to spill their blood and tear their throats, and now the pain he had inflicted would be repaid through the very limbs of his own body. He tumbled backward, the weight of the revelation physically forcing him to the ground. His face contorted in sheer terror and despair, the words echoing in his mind as an inescapable sentence. A crisp, decisive sound cut through the air as Soo-ho stamped the final document, sealing the judgment. Reaching out desperately for the papers, Kuda tried to protest, to explain that he hadn't meant to cause harm. But his pleas were futile, as he found himself kneeling, defeated, before the impassive figure of Soo-ho. Soo-ho merely offered a slight, knowing smile, dismissing Kuda's desperate cries of scam with a calm, superior gaze. As the final judgment is rendered, a hand reaches down into the shadowy void, beckoning the kneeling Ko Young-woo to his funeral. The world around him dissolves into a streaking blur, leaving him to rattle and slam against an unseen barrier, still kneeling in the desolate aftermath of his judgment. He stretches, a weary sigh escaping him, muttering that it felt like a pretty long night. Suddenly, the scene shifts to a brightly lit kitchen, where a blonde Narumi, now in a restaurant uniform, confirms he's finished for the day, while Kang-jin, his dark-haired colleague, wishes him good work and asks if he's already heading home, surprised by the late hour. Back in the ethereal space, the dark-haired Kuda smiles faintly, wishing he could tell them he's doing well. He turns away, his thoughts heavy, believing it's too early to forgive them, and that their well-being is not his concern. Yet, a flicker of hope ignites within him as he realizes things are different now, and with Kang Jin's unwavering support, he believes he'll be okay. He watches himself, a dark-haired figure consumed by despair, as if observing a past life or a fractured part of his soul. The dark-haired version of himself, lost in thought, acknowledges that he was doing something wrong, fully aware of his misdeeds. A tear escapes his eye as he silently pleads, wishing for someone to scold him, believing it's not too late for discouragement to change his path. He falls through the ethereal void, yearning for that reprimand with all his heart and eyes, even as a detached voice questions the dramatic display. Suddenly, a blink, and he finds himself in a different setting, now with blonde hair, sitting on the floor and contemplating his hands, the shift in appearance marking a new beginning. A small object clacks onto the table, as Lee Kang-jin thanks him for something, then casually remarks that it was nothing and expresses his anticipation for future visits to the restaurant. Back in his dark-haired form, a determined smile spreads across his face as he declares, ready to embrace a new path and taste what life has to offer. The next day, in his blonde-haired form, he walks alongside Lee Kang-jin and Shin Suo, the three of them moving forward together, a new chapter unfolding. In the bustling schoolyard, a group of students gathers, discussing the recent changes to their old orphanage. Kazumiya Kahaku expresses her concern, wondering if the new management has made things better or worse. Narumi Kuda, listening intently, agrees that the new place is much better than before, a sentiment echoed by another student who believes the food has improved. Kahaku, however, remains skeptical, muttering that she'll only believe it once she tastes it herself. Later, at the orphanage, Kuda stands before the manager, admitting he hasn't tried the new food yet, but assures him that he can tell how it is already, adding that when it comes to food, he trusts his own judgment. The manager, with a knowing smile, recalls Kuda's past, remembering how he used to sneak into the kitchen to steal food, and how he would always know the exact ingredients just by smelling them. Overcome with emotion, the manager embraces Kuda, confessing that he actually thinks the broth tastes even cleaner than it was originally, a testament to the care put into it. He continues, his voice thick with sentiment, that it tastes just like it did before, but even better now, asking if Kuda agrees. Stepping back, the manager smiles warmly, expressing his genuine happiness that Kuda enjoyed it. Kuda, his expression resolute, vows to do his best to prepare the most perfect food, a promise he makes with unwavering determination. The abstract lines of a memory fade, giving way to the present moment. A man, his face contorted in pure delight, devours a bowl of soup, a satisfied, almost animalistic sound escaping him as he spoons another mouthful. The orphanage manager watches him with a gentle, chiding expression, reminding him to slow down lest he burn his tongue, but the man, clearly famished, insists he's too hungry to wait. A sigh escapes the manager, a mix of exasperation and affection, as the man continues to eat with gusto, his hand reaching for another serving. He dismisses the manager's concern with a cheerful "that's okay," and gulps down more of the broth, proclaiming it the best soup in the entire world. The manager, still watching him, wonders aloud if he ever gets tired of eating the same dish every day. But the man simply beams, a picture of pure contentment, his joy radiating from him. In the kitchen, Narumi Kuda stands beside the orphanage manager, who looks toward the dining area with a surprised expression, as if hearing something unexpected. The man from the dining area, Lee Kang-jin, now stands in the kitchen, his arms raised in a triumphant greeting, acknowledging the manager and Kuda with a familiar long time. Lee Kang-jin laughs heartily, declaring he's never felt better, and invites them to join him for a meal if they haven't had lunch yet. He confesses he's been craving a nice hot bowl of hangover soup. Kuda's mind races, recalling the exact recipe, one bowl of soul kimchi with a whole lot of ginger, just like he always makes it, doing great. A warmth spreads through him as he thinks. It makes him happy to see Kang-jin like that, and he offers a silent thank you. Kang-jin continues, he should be the one thanking Kuda for teaching him the precious hangover soup recipe. Overwhelmed by the unexpected gratitude, Kuda feels a rush of emotion, unsure how to repay such kindness. Tears well up in his eyes as he whispers, a profound thank you. He quickly tries to compose himself, thinking he shouldn't let Kang-jin see him like this at his age, hastily wiping away the tears. Unaware of Kuda's emotional turmoil, Kang-jin cheerfully announces he'll come visit his son often. If he were to become a burden to anyone again, he would ensure he paid them back, so he resolved to take on the responsibility himself and let others rest in peace. With that heavy thought, he walked away from the orphanage. Though tears still welled in his eyes, a new resolve began to harden his expression. A single tear escaped, a final acknowledgement of the past. He reached out, a silent plea to himself, as a sudden flash of insight struck him. His eyes widened with a fierce determination. Looking out, he whispered, I'll leave it to you, Kakin, a promise made to an unseen presence. A piece of paper fluttered gently through the air. It landed with a soft drop, revealing a check for 10 million won. He walks with purpose, a financial check for approximately $8,000 clutched in his hand. Though it represents 10 million won, He muses that when considering Madame O's true worth, this amount feels almost insignificant. Turning to look back at the building he's leaving, he offers a silent farewell and a heartfelt thank you for everything. As he continues on his way, he reassures himself that he'll be right back. Approaching another building, he can already smell the cooking, knowing it's been going on since morning, and is told it will be ready soon. A surprised gasp escapes him, as he's told there's no need to worry, as they've already eaten. He stammers, caught off guard by the sudden appearance of a man in a dark suit, who acknowledges his efforts, saying, "You did pretty well, Kanjin. Do you have any more questions?" His eyes widen slightly, and he quickly dismisses the thought, declaring he'll just go get his check, though he really wanted to ask something. The office hums with an unusual energy, a feeling that something is subtly different today. Everyone is engrossed in their own tasks, the management team suddenly bustling with activity, making the space feel more like a gym than a workplace. As he heads out, a colleague calls out, greeting Kanjin as Mr. Lee. Kanjin returns the greeting, then attempts to reserve 6 bowls of hangover soup for the weekend, only to be informed that the item has been removed from the menu after last week. Meanwhile, in a bustling kitchen, the original drawing board for a recipe has been completely wiped clean, prompting a recommendation to start fresh. Kuda bows respectfully to the manager, promising to see him later and wishing him a good day. Back in the office, Kanjin questions if he's hallucinating, wondering if his colleagues have just emerged from a mist into the real world. His colleague apologizes, but Kanjin persists, asking if the office doesn't feel strange today. He then points out the office notice board, implying the answer lies there. He stares at the notice board, a new addition that wasn't there yesterday. It announces a company athletic event, an overnight affair that will last for 2 days. A frustrated sigh escapes him, as he considers the diner, wondering how he can manage it during the event. Dazed by the news, he questions the event itself, feeling trapped as a mere intern, desperate to find a way out. The thought of losing the diner, the building itself, if he can't run it, fills him with dread. His face contorts with worry, the weight of his responsibilities pressing down on him. Descending the stairs, he realizes there's no point in worrying about this alone. Meanwhile, Shin Suho confirms on the phone that he will indeed be gone for 2 days. Kanjin, now on the phone, explains his predicament, unsure of what to do in this situation. In his office, Shin Suho discusses the upcoming company event, a soft creak echoing as he shifts in his chair. He reassures the person on the other end, asking if it's truly acceptable for him to send someone else to cover the Friday night shift. Meanwhile, Lee Kanjin, still descending the stairs, considers the implications, knowing a normal person would be utterly shocked by the situation. Shin Suho confirms it's fine, promising to remind their young master about his impending fall, a soft click accompanying his words. Lee Kanjin then recalls the interior designer, a thought sparking in his mind. He asks if Shin Suho could inquire about renovating the diner. Though the other man isn't sure of her availability, he agrees to ask. As Lee Kanjin continues his descent, he questions if someone was requested, a sudden no escaping him. Shin Suho clarifies that was all, as Lee Kanjin takes another step, the conversation concluding. Arriving at the diner, Lee Kanjin freezes, his eyes widening in surprise as he spots Narumi Kuda, who is holding a box. He continues his phone conversation, hearing Shin Suho offer to send a replacement for his Friday night shift. As he lifts a stack of boxes, he mentions needing to train for an athletic competition. He then asks about an interior designer for the diner renovations, noting how busy the office seems. A moment later, he questions why something is surprising. His attention shifts to a screen displaying information about a segment where employees pick a popular colleague, causing him to exclaim in surprise. He mutters, "No wonder," as the screen reveals a message about preparing for the athletic competition, specifically addressing him. The display then highlights a position, before showing a prompt about the start of the first half, leaving him to ponder its meaning. A deep scowl settles on his face. As he walks towards his desk, his mind still racing, Lee Kanjin settles into his chair, a thought forming in his mind as he focuses on the screen before him. A deep, internal discomfort washes over him, manifesting as a pained grimace across his face, his arms crossing defensively. A phone vibrates loudly on a table, startling Kuda, who wonders aloud who could be texting him so early in the morning. The screen lights up with a message from someone named Shin Suju, informing Kanjin that she'll be taking care of the diner over the weekend. Kuda, standing behind the counter, greets Lee Kanjin and Shin Suho, who are seated at a table, realizing this must be Mr. Shin's youngest sibling. Another message arrives, stating that she heard he wanted to talk to her older brother about the diner. Kuda, now seated and looking at his phone, replies that it's no problem, adding that if he were in her brother's shoes, he'd have no choice but to accept, and asks if she has any specific requests for the renovation. A sudden thought strikes him, and he confirms that he has indeed written down a few things. His fingers rapidly tap out his response on the phone screen. A few minutes later, Kuda was still engrossed in his phone, receiving another message from Shin Suju. He smiled, confident in his abilities, typing out a reply that he could handle all the renovation work over the weekend, even as Suju's message about the total cost lingered. He continued to ponder the messages, his focus unwavering. A bead of sweat trickled down his temple as he read Suju's next question, asking if he wanted to proceed with the plans. He typed another response, as Suju's concern about paying in installments became clear. The thought of not being able to afford it all at once weighed heavily on her. Meanwhile, in what appeared to be the diner, a man in a dark suit entered, his eyes immediately falling upon Kuda, who was still absorbed in his phone. A sudden realization dawned on the newcomer as he recognized the young man. He can't believe his eyes. The boy who once ran a company is now working in a diner. A scoff escapes him as he thinks it's probably just a part-time job, but still, the irony is palpable. Leaving the diner behind, Lee Kongjin rises from his desk, his workday just beginning. He lifts his bag, preparing to depart, a colleague wishing him a good night. But Kongjin's mind is elsewhere, a bitter thought forming. They're not even serious about their work, so their trick won't work on him. He observes the bustling office, filled with people who seem to be doing nothing but talking, a stark contrast to his own focused determination. As the elevator dings, he recalls a past conversation, a promise made to himself. He can't put all his effort into a company that isn't his. He dashes out of the building, a man on a mission. But then, a nagging question surfaces. Why is he even working so hard right now? He rubs his temples, the weight of his responsibilities pressing down, wondering if his relentless drive stems from a desire not to disappoint the professor who recommended him. Having already checked the necessary documents, he considers that all he truly needs to do is review his emails, yet a deeper question lingers. Does he actually want to serve his loyal customers? Or is it something else entirely? A soft chime echoes, signaling the opening of a door. Stepping out, he begins his departure. With a weary sigh, he walks away from the office building, the day's burdens heavy on his shoulders. As the sun begins to set, he continues his walk, still grappling with the idea of actually trying in his work. Elsewhere, a figure leaps from a towering structure, a stark contrast to the quiet contemplation. In a bustling office, a manager passionately rallies his team, his voice booming with encouragement, urging them to succeed. The N4 Team Z responds with an enthusiastic cheer, their collective energy filling the room as they declare their readiness to win. A high-energy ping-pong match is underway, the female player leaning into her swing with an enthusiastic cry. The ball connects with a sharp, decisive sound, as paddles blur in a flurry of motion. Cheers erupt from the sidelines, as the player's passion for the game is palpable. One of the players, caught off guard, finds himself atop the table, looking down in confusion. An observing colleague, paddle in hand, comments on the youthful exuberance of the players. He muses that despite their youthful antics, they possess a bright future. Elsewhere, Lee Kongjin looks down, a thoughtful expression on his face, wondering about the sudden appearance of certain individuals. His colleague recounts the lively scene, causing Kongjin to react with surprise, even calling out to Kangho as he asks if an accident occurred. A slight smile plays on his lips as he confirms that something like that did indeed happen a while ago. As the conversation continues, Lee Kongjin recalls the details of a past incident, explaining that the parking lot was completely empty at the time, and the accident occurred directly in front of the building. The blaring sirens of emergency vehicles echoed through the air, a stark reminder of the chaos that ensued. He recounts how the accident was severe, with the sound of sirens continuing to fill the scene, and apparently, it wasn't just a minor fender bender. The aftermath was grim, with some people injured, and others, tragically, losing their lives. The driver involved in the incident was eventually acquitted, despite the gruesome evidence of blood splattered across the car's interior. Narumi Kuda listens, his eyes widening in disbelief, uttering a shocked, "What? But how?" Lee Kongjin continues, explaining that the dash cams of the parked cars captured the entire accident, and the brake lights were clearly visible in the footage. This meant that even though the driver hit the brakes, the impact was still devastating. The sound of the collision, a sharp bang, still resonates in the memory of the event. The damage was done, the lives lost, it was too late to change anything. Public outcry swelled, intensifying even after the dashcam footage was released to the world. And though the incident dominated the news for a time, with others facing trial, the driver himself was ultimately let go. But that didn't seem to matter to him. His position as a teacher, it seemed, was enough to shield him from justice. He simply walked away, returning to his students as if nothing had happened. Kongjin's voice tightens. How could he possibly live with a clear conscience after that? Kuda, sensing the depth of his companion's distress, asks, "Why are you suddenly bringing up that old accident?" A profound realization dawns on Kuda, his eyes welling up, "Because I think I just saw the kids who died." A large cut of meat sizzles and crackles on the grill, its juices dripping onto the hot coals as it cooks to perfection. Two women stare in wide-eyed amazement, a gasp escaping their lips at the sight. Their expressions of shock deepen, utterly captivated by the spectacle. Meanwhile, Lee Kongjin observes the cooked rump, remarking on its size, while Shin Suho wonders if someone intends to eat it all alone, questioning why it was brought if they can't share. Just then, Kongjin pulls Narumi Kuda into the room, who has arrived with the freshly cooked meat. As Kuda stands holding the tray, whispers ripple through the room, questioning why he's there and if he's perhaps hiding or has no friends. Suho suggests Kuda wants the meat all to himself, but Kuda quickly clarifies that he brought it for everyone to share. Confused by the continued murmurs, Kuda looks around, wondering who they're talking about, as Kongjin and Suho whisper to each other that no one is behind him. He extends the plate of food, inviting the three to eat. But the spectral figures recoil in shock, utterly bewildered that he could even perceive them, let alone offer sustenance they believed themselves incapable of consuming. Meanwhile, Lee Kongjin and Shin Suho, already seated at the table, urge him to hurry, their hunger overriding any lingering questions about his presence. He hesitates for a moment, a piece of meat held delicately between his fingers. But the two men waste no time, devouring the food with an almost desperate enthusiasm, loud slurps and chomps echoing through the space. Narumi Kuda watches them, a question forming on his lips as he wonders if they're truly eating the food itself, or merely its essence. One of the ghost women, still looking away, admits the food is filling, but expresses a lingering dissatisfaction. She attempts to consume the ethereal aura of the food, but finds it utterly tasteless, a mere echo of true sustenance. Narumi Kuda then clarifies, explaining that only in a specific diner can ghosts truly taste the food they consume. A place like that? Kongjin questions, his surprise evident, wondering if they are somehow tied to this location. Kuda hums thoughtfully, pondering why other people aren't offering them food. Suho, looking directly at Kuda, states that he hasn't met anyone else who can see him, explaining that they can't leave, which prompts a questioning what? From Kuda. Kongjin and Su Young, still looking bewildered, echo the sentiment, asking how Kuda can see them and if he's a shaman. Kuda, scratching his head, confirms that it's his job to give food to ghosts, a statement that leaves the others stunned. Kongjin continues to munch on his food, while Su Young observes that Kuda seems a bit strange, but not necessarily bad. Suho, with a hopeful expression, asks Kuda if he can see his family. He explains that Kuda is the first person who can see him, and his parents are probably worried, asking if Kuda can tell them he's doing well. Kuda looks down, hesitating, as Suho asks if he will. Of course, Shin Su-young insists, pulling the young Shin Suho closer. They must have been worrying for the last 6 years. If I tell them you're still wandering the living world, she continues, her voice laced with concern, won't that just make them feel worse? Lee Kongjin interjects, suggesting, so for the sake of you and your families, we should look for another solution besides contacting them. Kuda listens, a bead of sweat tracing his temple as the weight of their predicament settles upon him. We know that. Lee Kongjin shouts, his frustration boiling over. We know it's selfish, but what else can we do since we can't leave? Kuda's gaze falls to Shin Suho, whose small hand he holds, asking, can't leave this place? I'm frustrated as well too, he exclaims, a guttural sound escaping him as he clenches his fist. Shin Suho looks up, his eyes wide with despair. We already know that. So what do you want us to do it? Kuda's expression hardens, a new resolve taking hold. He sighs, realizing how much time has passed, how long it's truly taking to help these particular spirits. Unlike the more straightforward ghosts he'd encountered at the diner, these three seemed truly lost and unsure of their next steps. If only there was a way to ask other spirits for assistance. He remembers a time when the diner ghosts felt the same way, lost and without direction, just like Lee Kongjin and Shin Su-young now. But how did they manage to maintain their stability, their presence? He watches the two spirits, a thought sparking in his mind, a crucial detail he needs to remember. Feeling a surge of determination, he declares he's not entirely sure about this hunch, but it's definitely worth trying. Turning to the confined spirits, he asks them to listen, confirming that neither of them can leave this training center. He then reveals his plan. They can move around a bit, as long as they stay within the grounds of the training center. As he pulls with effort, a disembodied voice questions his intentions, asking where he plans to go. Ignoring the question as time seems to tick by, he declares his intention to prepare something substantial for them. Standing resolute, Narumi Kuda prepares to fulfill his promise. The quiet of the restaurant is broken only by the soft slurp of a drink, a moment of calm before the rush. But inside, two young children devour their meal with an almost desperate hunger, their slurps and the clatter of their bowls filling the air as they express their profound satisfaction. The young girl beams up at Narumi Kuda, thanking him for the meal, while the young boy sighs in contentment, admitting it's been far too long since he's truly enjoyed anything. Later, in the kitchen, Kuda urges the young girl to scrape her bowl clean, reminding her that opportunities like this might not come again, a sentiment she quietly acknowledges. As he cleans a bowl, a wave of distress washes over him, regretting that he couldn't even get food for them before. He wonders if it's even possible to give food to ghosts, then asks if there's a way for them to leave this place. The young girl and boy sit together, their expressions somber, as she responds with a heavy about that. She explains that Kuda is the first person to ever talk to them or offer them food, a stark revelation of their long, lonely existence. The children plead with him, asking if he can take them to their parents or at least find someone to help them leave, explaining that they've been trapped for 6 years, unable to do anything, mere ghosts. He listens intently as the two ghost children, their forms shimmering faintly, express their profound desire to leave this place, wishing they could go to different locations. As he continues his work, washing dishes, he muses that being stuck in one place might indeed make them feel like they're living in a different world, but he doesn't truly understand their plight. He recalls their words, their plea for help to find their parents or escape their current existence, and the weight of their situation settles upon him. He wonders if there's anyone who could truly help them. A thoughtful expression crosses his face as he considers the possibilities, a faint "oh" escaping his lips. He realizes he might know someone who could assist them, a thought that causes the ghost children to react with a startled, "Really?" as they eagerly ask who he's referring to. With a slight hesitation, he explains that it's someone they could call their big senior, introducing a new figure who stands beside him. He stands with a determined expression, ready to take action, his red gloves a stark contrast against his white shirt. The two ghost children look down, contemplating this new information, a soft PP sound accompanying their thoughtful silence. They look up at the new figure, their faces etched with surprise as they repeat, "Our big senior?" He nods, then asks the two ghost children to introduce themselves, to which the girl with short, light brown hair replies, "I'm Choi Gun," while the one with long, dark hair adds, "I'm Lee Yerim." As they thank him for his help, he explains that he knows someone who might be able to assist them. A man with dark, neatly styled hair introduces himself, "I'm Lee Kangjin. You can just call me Kangjin." Kuda then clarifies that he'll be asking for help from this big senior he knows, preparing to be as polite as possible, while the ghost children wonder if this implies a strong ghost. He asks if ghosts have different strengths, and Kuda simply chuckles, assuring them they'll understand once they meet him. Kangjin clears his throat, a subtle signal of his presence. Suddenly, the air shimmers with a vibrant, glowing red energy, as the name Kim Sohai appears and multiplies within the ethereal particles. A powerful whoosh echoes as the red aura intensifies, swirling violently, as if pulling something into existence. Amidst the chaotic energy, a figure seems to tumble into view, leaving a lingering question about this sudden, overwhelming sensation. The air shivers and falters, a palpable tremble shaking the very space as a crimson energy quivers and shakes, gripping the surroundings with its raw power. A dark, blooded essence swirls, then swishes, coalescing into a distinct form. With a powerful whoosh, a figure emerges, radiating an intense red glow, her long black hair and red dress flowing around her as she materializes. Her bare feet touch the ground, the last vestiges of the crimson aura dissipating around her. "Summoning you so suddenly," Kim Sohai begins, her voice carrying an ancient weight. "Why have you called for me?" Before her, Lee Kangjin, Narumi Kuda, Choi Gun, and Lee Yerim stand, bowing deeply in unison. "Hello, ma'am." Kangjin greets her respectfully, adding, "It's an honor to meet you." A faint, unsettling smile plays on her lips, her glowing red eyes narrowing slightly as she assures them, "Do not be afraid. I do not bite." Kangjin, still deferential, responds, "Why yes, ma'am," before explaining, these children tied to this place. So, I was wondering if you could help them." The powerful red aura from the manifestation still pulses, swirling with shadowy figures and glowing eyes, a potent display of power. With a desperate plea in his voice, Narumi Kuda begs for help, while Lee Kangjin, Choi Gun, and Lee Yerim stand behind him, their gazes fixed upwards. From her elevated position, Kim Sohai looks down, her expression unreadable, as Lee Kangjin asks if she made a promise to the man who brought them here. A deeper truth is revealed. Despite their ability to see and converse with spirits, the world they inhabit is fundamentally different from the realm of ghosts. Kim Sohai confirms she did make a promise, prompting Lee Kangjin to acknowledge her words, though his gaze remains fixed on her. He explains the tragic circumstances of the children's deaths, his voice filled with a fervent desire to help them in any way he can. Choi Gun and Lee Yerim, their small figures trembling, add their own desperate pleas, revealing they've been waiting for 6 long years for someone to finally help them. Kim Sohai remains high above them, observing the group with an inscrutable gaze. A soft tisk escapes her lips, a subtle sign of her displeasure or perhaps her contemplation. She suggests they move to a different location, her gaze distant as if already contemplating the next step. As they step out into the night, a soft glow emanating from her hand, she issues a quiet warning. From this point forward, he should not interfere too deeply in the affairs of mortals. Lee Kangjin, however, quickly counters, insisting he isn't interfering but merely trying to feel compassion for the children. Meanwhile, Narumi Kuda watches the two ghost children, Choi Gun and Lee Yerim, who are still lingering near the debris, a soft clinking sound accompanying his thoughts as his heart goes out to them, especially because of their tender age. Kim Suhi's expression remains unreadable as she states, "They are simply like other ghosts." Narumi Kuda considers this, concluding that perhaps that is precisely why he feels even more sorrow for them. Kim Suhi turns her attention back to Lee Kangjin and Narumi Kuda, a subtle escaping her lips, acknowledging that they may believe they can help now, but a creaking sound seems to punctuate her unspoken reservations. Her glowing red eyes fix on Lee Kangjin once more, and she delivers a crucial caveat. She explains that only those who cannot leave their bodies are truly unable to leave an area. As their conversation continues, the three figures move across a dimly lit basketball court, their steps illuminated by a soft, ethereal blue glow emanating from their feet. Shin Suho holds Narumi Kuda close, his voice firm as he lays down a condition. If the young man is forced to follow him, he will become his slave. He warns against betrayal, asserting his lack of kindness. Meanwhile, Kim Suhi, having observed the exchange, turns away from a lingering, spectral figure, understanding that attachment itself is a powerful force, especially a ghost's deep resentment. With a sharp, decisive motion, she severs that strong sense of attachment by force, a shimmering energy radiating from her hand. She concludes that severing such a bond must demand an equal price, and expresses her own desire to leave this place. Narumi Kuda gently pats Shin Suho's shoulder, then turns to Kim Soo-hee, asking about her own resentment tied to this place. Kim Soo-hee, her decision made, declares her intention to leave with both of them, prompting a short, amused laugh from Shin Suho. Shin Suho then reaches out and takes Narumi Kuda's hand, addressing him by the familiar name, Youngsu. A sudden flash of light accompanies his surprised expression, as he questions how Narumi Kuda could have possibly known it was him. Narumi Kuda gently covers Shin Suho's face, assuring him that his identity is as clear as day. As Shin Suho holds him close, a single thought echoes in Narumi Kuda's mind. Obvious. He remembers the past, a time when he believed he was the only one who knew about a certain accident, and how he had always liked both Lee Yerim and Choi Gun back in middle school, even if he couldn't bring himself to confess his feelings to her. Choi Gun's cheerful voice echoes from that memory, wondering if she would lose their friendship if she did something. He recalls a moment of vulnerability, a hand reaching out to him, as he thought, "I'm the only one who knows what the accident happened." He remembers pushing both of them out of the way, the force of his actions causing them to stumble, and then pushing them out of the way again. Yet, he hadn't been able to push them out of his mind, the memory lingering. Back in the present, Shin Suho's comforting words cut through his thoughts. "You still tried your best." Another memory surfaces, this time of Lee Kong-jin, who once thought he should have at least confessed to Yerim, wondering what would happen if he crossed the line. The unspoken consequences of such actions weigh heavily on his mind, a somber reflection on the paths not taken. He reflects on the past, a deep regret echoing in his mind. If only he had realized it a little sooner, perhaps things would have been different. The thought is a heavy weight, a dark, swirling energy that seems to consume everything. Meanwhile, another voice from the past, Lee Kong-jin, laments his own missed opportunities, wishing he could settle his own regrets, but knowing he cannot. Narumi Kuda looks on, his expression unreadable, as if witnessing these echoes of the past unfold before him. Then, a chilling question cuts through the ethereal blue space, directed at him by a mysterious figure with glowing red eyes, asking if he is ready to sever his ties, the sound of a ceremonial clack punctuating her words. The mysterious figure, Kim Soo-hee, stands in a flowing red dress, her words echoing a warning, remembering love conquers all, but also that if one's body is released, their soul will be released too. She continues, her voice a solemn instruction, to make sure to engrave this spot on one's memory and imagine the head there. Narumi Kuda and Shin Suho stand together, observing Kim Soo-hee, who is surrounded by glowing, ethereal tendrils, her presence radiating an otherworldly power. He fidgets nervously, while the mysterious woman simply states, "I don't know," a response that clearly doesn't reassure anyone. With a shared understanding, the three men agree to a plan, their expressions hardening with resolve. "If we happen to split up," one suggests, "let's agree to meet at the park we always went to at 6 p.m. The other man acknowledges the meeting point, his gaze distant as he repeats the details. A firm squeeze of hands seals their pact, a silent command to remember. Meanwhile, Kim Soo-hee, now clad in a traditional combat outfit, draws a gleaming katana with a sharp clack, her demeanor shifting to one of fierce readiness. She moves with blinding speed, the blade a blur of shing, swish, and slash, leaving trails of purple energy in her wake. Her eyes, glowing red, reflect the sharp glint of the blade, as she completes her devastating attack. Her powerful strike slams into something unseen, unleashing a torrent of blue energy that coalesces into a swirling, dark orb. The shockwave from the impact rips through the air, sending Narumi Kuda, Shin Suho, and Lee Kong-jin reeling back with a collective gasp. The chaotic energy continues to churn around them, causing Narumi Kuda to flinch back, his eyes wide with alarm. Amidst the swirling blue, she observes the signs of attachment left behind, then leaps forward with renewed resolve, her glowing blade slicing through the dark, organic structures. The severed pieces float away, dissolving into the ethereal blue. She turns sharply, her eyes wide with surprise as a sudden force erupts around her, sending objects like a pair of glasses drifting helplessly through the glowing blue energy and dark, organic tendrils. Narumi Kuda, caught in the same surge, reaches out in a desperate attempt to retrieve them. But his fingers only brush against the air as they slip away. He begins to fall, plummeting through the vibrant blue light, his arm outstretched in a futile gesture. Lee Kong-jin reaches out, a cry of Yerim, escaping his lips as the chaos engulfs them all. And Shin Suho falls with a desperate shout of no. Both men plummet through the shimmering blue void, their cries of alarm echoing into the unknown. The blue-tinged environment rushes past, distant building lights blurring as Lee Kong-jin's desperate cry for Yerim echoes through the chaotic descent. Then, the vibrant blue fades into an oppressive darkness, the fall continuing into an unknown abyss. A desperate cry echoes through the vast, dimly lit industrial space, as Narumi Kuda searches frantically for Lee Yerim. His hands pressed to his ears, as if trying to block out the silence or the overwhelming energy around him, still calling her name. He stares at a swirling blue portal, a silent question hanging in the air. Why can't he summon her? Suddenly, Kim Soo-hee appears, a knife clutched in her hand, her words cutting through his despair. She asks if he truly knows what kind of child Yerim is, asserting that no matter how far she went, she couldn't escape her sight, and might even still be in the same place. Narumi Kuda looks down, then up, a single thought forming in his mind, wondering what they should do now. Kim Soo-hee gently pulls him into a comforting embrace, reassuring him that Yerim is incredibly smart and will be fine. As they walk away from the building, he echoes her sentiment, convinced that Yerim's intelligence will see her through. With a sudden swish of movement, Kim Soo-hee's eyes glow red, a blue aura flaring around her as she declares her promise fulfilled, announcing her departure and a return in a few days. Before vanishing, she gently pats Narumi Kuda's head, telling him to cheer up. He can't get the image of her screaming out of his head, a haunting echo that leaves him utterly distraught. Meanwhile, in a brighter, more celebratory memory, the most popular intern of the athletics competition is announced. The crowd erupts in applause for Moon Arung, who graciously accepts their cheers. Amidst the enthusiastic cheers and claps, he joins in the celebration. But the memory fades, and Narumi Kuda is once again consumed by the haunting image of her scream, reaching out as if to grasp at something just beyond his reach, surrounded by shimmering blue particles. He reflects on how they were all erased from attendance records, just as they wished, but none of them expected to be separated like this. A profound question weighs on him. Could he have done something better, viewed the children from the perspective of a living person? He ponders his own identity, walking the line between life and death, or simply being the owner of the daily diner. Snapping back to the present, Narumi Kuda nudges Lee Kangjin, telling him to cheer up, assuring him that even if he wasn't chosen as the most popular intern, he's still great at his job and will be fine. A sudden movement behind him makes Narumi Kuda jump, his eyes wide with surprise as he realizes Lee Kangjin has appeared without a sound. Later, seated across from each other, Narumi Kuda reassures the dejected Kangjin that everything will be fine, receiving a quiet thank you in return. As he slides a glass across the table, Kuda's mind drifts, wondering if all the strange events he's experienced truly happened. He ponders his past obsession, a deep-seated fixation that now seems distant and inexplicable. Standing in the quiet kitchen, he still can't comprehend why Yerim didn't recognize him, even after he called her name multiple times. A sigh escapes him as he considers that perhaps she simply hasn't learned yet, musing that one must learn how to be abandoned. His thoughts conjure an image of a hospital room, where figures in gowns sit dejectedly, a stark visual representation of his internal struggle. He continues his somber reflection, believing that the same principles apply to Yerim's situation, and that these abandoned ghosts must learn to carry on. Looking out, perhaps at a reflection of himself, he concludes that maiden ghosts and bachelor ghosts must learn from each other, regardless of their auras. He considers the two individuals who had been drawn into the mana flow, reflecting that even if others were nearby, they would have found it difficult to approach them. In his mind's eye, he sees himself, Lee Kangjin, and Shin Suho standing on a glowing platform, isolated in a vast, dark expanse. A soft sigh escapes him, as he admits to himself that he's slowly growing accustomed to his new circumstances. He muses on the ghost business in Korea, finding it not so bad, and notes that these spirits can even use their own mana, suggesting he might as well enjoy the ride. Reflecting on his own time as a ghost, he concludes that laughter is the most crucial thing one can hold on to. Observing Lee Kangjin, who appears deeply distressed, he understands the younger man's pain without needing a single word. A frustrated groan escapes him. His hand moves with a rhythmic sound, scraping against a surface. He stumbles back, a small item clattering to the floor, his hands suddenly shaking as he takes in the sight of the man before him. Oh my, you're a mess, he thinks, as Lee Kangjin, startled, asks when he arrived, then quickly dismisses the question, stating it's not important right now. Kangjin, still on the floor, insists he doesn't have time for a long explanation and tells him to leave, assuring him he's not in danger and just needs to be alone. But Kuda, his expression thoughtful, wonders why he should leave, considering he could have simply possessed him. He then asks Kangjin directly, "Do you know how to possess people, Hyung?" Kneeling beside the slumped figure, Kuda recalls Dr. Seo's previous explanations about possessing a human mind, a process he had initially found difficult or complicated. He realizes his past struggles were simply because he wasn't used to possessing people or borrowing a living body, and with a determined look, he declares, "I'll talk him out of it." As a faint, swirling aura emanates from Kangjin. Standing tall as Kangjin slowly sits up, Kuda lets out a satisfied humph, praising Dr. Seo for his amazing work, then playfully demands a fried egg as payment. As he turns to walk away, he glances back, deciding one isn't enough and promises to make two, just needing a second. While Kuda busies himself in the kitchen, the thought lingers, is being possessed truly that bad for a living person? He reflects that one wouldn't possess anyone, even if someone's life were in danger. As he carefully cracks eggs into a waiting carton, Kuda reflects on the delicate balance of a living body, where yin and yang energies must remain in harmony to ensure health. He considers the implications, knowing that if the energy of the dead becomes too potent, that crucial balance could shatter, a thought that causes a small spark of concern to flicker within him. Another egg cracks under his touch, and he wonders aloud if such an imbalance would truly benefit a living person. The egg sizzles in the pan, and he admits to himself that it feels wrong to voice such concerns when he himself is benefiting from possessing another. Yet, a faint glow emanates from his hand as he continues, believing that ultimately, it is always best for there to be a clear and distinct separation between the realms of the living and the dead. Even though there are times when such a separation is simply unavoidable. A desperate plea echoes through a memory, a figure clinging to another, lamenting the departure of Mr. Hyan. The voice, filled with anguish, questions a broken promise, as a hand reaches out, grasping for reassurance, only to be met with the cold realization that some things are no different from any other fleeting show. Suddenly, a chilling vision manifests, a woman with piercing red eyes and flowing dark hair, surrounded by an ominous crimson aura. A soft tap echoes in the darkness, as an unseen hand gently makes contact with an unseen surface. Narumi Kuda, his brow furrowed in confusion and a bead of sweat tracing his temple, looks utterly bewildered by the sudden influx of unsettling thoughts and images. His arm, still clad in his work apron, hangs at his side, a silent testament to his current environment. Meanwhile, a glowing, fiery orb is tossed, its trajectory leaving a shimmering trail in the air. Back in the kitchen, a colleague calls out to him, suggesting they meet up sometime this Saturday, prompting Narumi Kuda to inquire about the sudden invitation. As a clatter sounds from something falling to the floor, his colleague reveals a desire to visit a particular place together. Narumi Kuda looks up, startled, as the older man asks if he wants to go to the traditional market to look at new movies again, quickly denying it. His thoughts drift to the restaurant Yongsu, where the head chef used to work, wondering about its name now that he's alive again. The older man hesitates, mentioning that the head chef wasn't feeling well. A smirk plays on his lips as he asks if he's worrying too much. Narumi Kuda agrees that worry is natural, but questions why the older man needs him to join, prompting the older man to shake his head and call him clueless. With a dramatic flourish, the older man announces he's actually going somewhere to dine, then warns that Narumi Kuda won't be able to fight if he's in a full group, quickly clarifying it's just a meal. Narumi Kuda still can't believe the older man worked at such a pretentious restaurant, prompting the older man to ask if he should take that as a compliment. Suddenly, the older man flinches, sensing a powerful presence and hearing a strange, guttural sound, thinking to himself that it's not yet. Narumi Kuda rushes away, calling back to his uncle about something until tomorrow. Kuda playfully holds the older man's head, a smile on his face, as the man exclaims that he had forgotten something important, urging Kuda to share such details. As a group of young men dashes away in the distance, Kuda reminds the older man to keep his Saturday open, receiving a quick affirmation. Still observing the retreating figures, Kuda muses that no matter how many times he sees it, their tendency to run away like that always strikes him as strange. Suddenly, a soft whoosh sound draws his attention upwards, and he looks at a nearby building, a faint glow emanating from its structure. Sliding into the restaurant, now wearing his apron, Kuda's expression shifts to one of surprise. He watches Sui walk towards the kitchen, asking if she's heading there again, to which she simply replies that she's going to eat. Kuda then comments on her unusual behavior, muttering about her liking someone who isn't even on the same page, and notices the scratches on her feet. Sui looks down at her scratched feet, pondering aloud which page the chicken feet were on, a faint scratching sound accompanying her thought. Kuda, looking somewhat exasperated, concludes that it's probably better than her eating outside. In the bustling kitchen, Kuda works diligently, trying to perfect a stir-fried chicken dish. He aims to recreate a special recipe, adding his own unique touch, though he seems surprised by the result. He presents the dish to Kim Soo-hee, who takes a bite and offers a rare compliment, declaring it tastes even better than before. As she continues to eat with focused intensity, she addresses him simply as young man, and he responds with a polite yes. Then, with a soft rattle of her traditional attire, she asks if he's still thinking about the chicken feet at the gymnasium, referring to her earlier, peculiar explanation. He hesitates, clearly still pondering her strange words, muttering a non-committal "oh well." A delicate hand lifts a glass, and she glances down at her feet, which still bear the faint, telltale scratches. She places the glass down, and Kuda's hands move to retrieve it, thanking her politely. As she turns and walks away, a soft snap echoes, and a deeper truth begins to unfold, hinting at the mystery behind her strange behavior. Her glowing red eye narrows, a chilling thought echoing in the silence. I still feel bad about what happened. As she turns to leave, her voice carries a detached quality. Well, considering your good deed, it is understandable. A sinister aura begins to emanate from her, the words hanging heavy in the air. However, guilt is not an emotion you must have for those like us. Kuda's face contorts in a mix of confusion and dawning horror, her words echoing in his mind. Even though you are willing to help those like us. As if responding to his unspoken thoughts, Sui's form distorts, shadowy tendrils and glowing red eyes manifesting around her, her voice now a guttural growl. You are still looking at us with the eyes of those like you. Her monstrous visage, a swirling vortex of dark energy and piercing red light, fills the space. Kuda stands frozen in the doorway, staring at the empty space where she once stood, the chilling revelation sinking in. Later, back in the quiet of the kitchen, he looks down at his hands, a profound weariness settling over him as he reflects. I was scared just by the thought of dealing with people. His thoughts drift to the monstrous entities he's faced, a stark contrast forming in his mind. But all the monsters I've dealt with compared to people. Still reeling from the recent revelation, he finds himself caught between two distinct worlds, a mediator struggling to reconcile their differences. Lee Kangjin, the demanding customer, rises from his seat, his presence commanding attention. His gaze sharp and unwavering, Kangjin leans in, his voice dropping to a serious tone, insisting that Kuda listen carefully to his words. A palpable tension fills the air as Kangjin clenches his hand, a silent testament to the immense pressure he feels. He reflects on how some individuals push others to their absolute limits, offering only the narrowest escape from their breaking point. He then steps closer, his voice firm as he declares that Kuda, in this moment, represents all he knows of such a person. His hand, still clenched, emphasizes his words as he asks if Kuda truly understands the gravity of the situation. Kuda flinches, his eyes wide with a mix of shock and dawning comprehension, the weight of Kangjin's words settling heavily upon him. Meanwhile, Kim Soo-hee, her long black hair swaying gently, walks away, leaving Narumi Kuda's mind consumed by an unutterable regret, her departure marking the end of a profound and unsettling encounter. Under a bright, clear sky, the traditional architecture of a Korean restaurant stands bathed in sunlight. This is the renowned Korean restaurant Banbaejung, a place of quiet elegance. Inside, in the exclusive plum blossom room, Lee Kangjin sits, a subtle smile playing on his lips as birds chirp softly outside. A nervous employee bows deeply before him, promising to do her best and asking to meet the head chef soon, while Narumi Kuda watches the scene unfold, a silent observer. Kangjin simply commands her to bow, a flush of embarrassment coloring her cheeks as she recalls her nervousness. He had come only because Young-soo had begged him, a somewhat embarrassing request, but the young man truly wanted to meet the head chef. Everyone, it seemed, already knew that someone here was a chef. At another table, three men discuss the situation, one noting that the plum blossom room is reserved for the young master. Another expresses disbelief at his babyish behavior, while a third muses on whether to tell him about the head chef's new dish. Narumi Kuda approaches the still-seated Kangjin, his expression one of concern, asking why he looks so downcast, wondering if something is wrong. Later, Kuda sits alone, reflecting on the strangeness of coming to Young-soo's workplace when Young-soo's uncle is the owner, a situation that feels inherently peculiar. With a determined step, he moves forward, ready to greet someone. He jumps back, startled, as a man appears behind him, introducing himself as Kim Bong-nam. This man, the head chef of Banbaejung, is known for his exceptional culinary skills. Bong-nam bows deeply to Lee Kangjin, expressing his honor at meeting the young master. Kangjin finds himself surrounded by fawning staff, who marvel at his silver hair, while Young-soo watches the scene unfold. Bong-nam gently holds Kangjin, asking if he may continue to address him as young master. A wave of distress washes over Kangjin as he recalls a painful memory, wishing he had never been born. Bong-nam offers comfort, gently patting Kangjin's head, as the young man laments his past, wishing he could forget it all. Later, sitting with Young-soo, Kangjin asks how he came to be friends with him. He listens intently as Bong-nam explains, "Oh, I first met him at a traditional market." A teacup clacks gently onto the table, and Bong-nam inquires, "What do you do for a living?" Kangjin sits across from the older man, a quiet tension filling the space between them. Bong-nam sips his tea, a thoughtful expression on his face, remarking, "It's hard to keep a diner afloat in Non-Haiyan without a certain level of skill." Kangjin, his gaze fixed on the chef, adds, "And I'm trying my best to thank him." Bong-nam considers this a soft "I see," escaping his lips. The two men stand, a comfortable silence settling between them, Narumi observing from a distance. A wide grin spreads across Kangjin's face as he declares, "I know he's grinning from ear to ear." His expression then turns serious. I actually asked you to meet me today for a reason, sir." He urges the chef to continue, his expression serious, as the chef begins to explain the situation. Nervously cracking his knuckles to break the tension, Kangjin then makes an unexpected request, asking if he could hold the chef's hand for a second. Bong-nam recalls Kangjin's earlier words, annoyed that he couldn't even come up with a better excuse for such a strange request. Narumi Kuda, still observing, looks on with a bewildered expression, unable to comprehend the situation. Kangjin's hand remains outstretched, awaiting a response. Still frustrated, Bong-nam complains to his small dog about Kangjin's emotional display, before finally relenting and agreeing to the strange request. Now dressed in a chef's jacket, Kangjin earnestly reiterates his request to hold the chef's hand. The chef looks utterly taken aback by the persistence, his eyes wide with surprise. Kangjin then launches into a rambling explanation about a dream involving someone named Young-soo, while Bong-nam, now amused, bursts into laughter. He extends his hand, offering it with a slight shrug, as if to say, "In that case, sure. Here you go." Just raise it. Without hesitation, the other man grasps it firmly. A soft, golden light immediately envelopes their joined hands, a gentle whoosh of energy emanating from the contact. As the light intensifies, a chilling sensation spreads through the chef's hand, revealing that his blood circulation is poor and his hand is unusually cold. The vision shifts to a different setting, where the man's diagnostic ability highlights a deeper issue, suggesting that the chef's liver isn't functioning well, but that's not even the biggest concern. His own eye glows with a faint light, as if confirming the grim prognosis. The even bigger problem is that the chef's kidneys aren't doing well either. The golden energy continues to pulse around the man's hands, the full extent of the chef's internal struggles laid bare. A young man observes the scene, his mind racing, recalling that the chef was definitely healthy before and wondering why his health has deteriorated so suddenly. Back in the restaurant, the man releases the chef's hand, his expression serious as he asks, "Excuse me for asking, chef, but have you had a medical checkup recently?" He confirms the chef's condition, stating that his liver and kidneys are in critical shape, a fact the chef himself seems to deny, claiming he's merely a little sick. From a distance, Narumi Kuda watches, his own perceptive abilities confirming the grim diagnosis. A soft blue glow emanates from his hand as he continues, emphasizing that the chef's organs are barely functioning, barely holding on. Outside, the wind rustles through the leaves. While the chef sits in silence, his head bowed, the weight of the revelation settling upon him. Kangjin continues, acknowledging the difficulty of accepting such news, but insisting that ignoring it will only lead to a worse outcome, a path he cannot allow. The chef's hand trembles visibly in Kangjin's grasp as he weakly pleads, begging him to stop. Narumi Kuda's eyes glow with a golden light, his face etched with anguish as he recalls his earlier warning to the chef about regular checkups, a warning that went unheeded. He wonders how he can simply turn away from the profound sorrow on his friend's face. Overwhelmed, Narumi Kuda kneels before Kangjin, pleading with him to ensure the chef's survival, a desperate plea rooted in a recurring dream. He pleads with the chef, his voice thick with emotion, urging him to seek immediate medical attention, while a deep desire to offer comfort washes over him. The chef, however, remains seated, his hands clenched tightly in his lap, the weight of the diagnosis pressing down on him. He wonders how he can ever find peace, yet offers a heartfelt thank you to the young man, who in turn feels an immense gratitude he cannot repay, his own thanks echoing the chef's. As he reaches out a hand, a profound realization settles within him. He is bridging the gap between two souls who might otherwise never have met. The chef's expression shifts as he recalls Lady Suhi's words, understanding now what she meant when she spoke of him looking like a ghost. A faint, grim smile touches his lips as he acknowledges the truth, a quiet acceptance settling over him. Just then, Li Kangjin steps forward, offering a solution. He will arrange a medical checkup as soon as possible, bringing a wave of relief to the chef, who lets out a grateful sigh. The young man holds the chef's arm, a silent gesture of support, as Li Kangjin stands by, observing the emotional exchange. Later, seated alone, Li Kangjin muses aloud that he expects something in return for his assistance, a hint of his pragmatic nature. He responds with a hesitant but firm, "Yes, of course," to the implied request, knowing he'll do anything as long as it doesn't involve. While Kim Bongnam bursts into a hearty, relieved laugh. Narumi Kuda can only manage a nervous, questioning chuckle in return, a sudden realization dawning on him that he might be in big trouble. A pained groan escapes Narumi Kuda, his hand pressed to his mouth as tears stream down his face, lamenting that he shouldn't have had to do anything at all. Later, in the bustling kitchen, Kim Bongnam, the chef, greets him with a cheerful laugh, noting that it's almost lunchtime. Kuda sits at the counter, looking distressed as the other chefs chuckle around him, but he insists that despite their amusement, the situation is still serious. Bongnam continues to laugh, but Kuda shakes his head, refusing to accept their lightheartedness, glancing at the other chefs and realizing the problem is far from over. The chef, still smiling, tells him not to be so nervous, even calling him friend, to which Kuda reluctantly agrees that he's not entirely wrong. With a knowing grin, Bongnam suggests that if he's truly that nervous, he should just go out, prompting a quiet ha from Kuda. Instead of dwelling on his current predicament, Kuda's mind drifts to a memory, recalling a moment with a blonde-haired friend, their hands clasped together. He remembers the delicious food his friend made with him, dishes that were both delightful and an extremely delicious handmade soup, and with all those memories, he couldn't help but feel a certain way. Snapping back to reality, Kuda washes his face at a sink, the water splashing around him, resolving that when this is all over, he'll start by cleaning the restaurant to at least make his money back. Kuda's hands meticulously wash and rinse the rice. With fresh ingredients at his disposal, he smiles, beginning the preparation. He then moves to sprinkle salt on the cucumber and stir-fried diced carrots, before gently spreading the completed rice onto seaweed. A determined smile crosses his face as he vows to create the best dishes for the restaurant. Soon, a plate of perfectly rolled sushi is complete. Elsewhere, Kim Bongnam observes the bustling diner, noting the overwhelming number of patrons. Li Kangjin watches Young-soo, who remains crouched in a corner, assuming he is sulking after his offer to help was rejected. As he diligently works, a voice from behind startles him, demanding to know where he was when needed, before quickly shifting to a more casual tone, suggesting a vote. The focus shifts to a perfectly crafted piece of sushi, glistening with fresh ingredients. As the chef takes a bite, savoring the flavors with a thoughtful chew, his expression is one of deep concentration, evaluating every nuance. Then, with a satisfied nod, the chef calls out to everyone, inviting them to come and have lunch, to which a chorus of "Yes, chef" responds. A crowd of eager hands descends upon the sushi, chopsticks deftly picking up the meticulously prepared rolls. Each piece is quickly claimed, disappearing into the hungry mouths of the diners. Meanwhile, the young chef clenches his fist, his heart thumping with anxiety, muttering to himself about how nerve-wracking this moment is. His tension breaks as a voice exclaims about the gimbap, declaring that it tastes great. Two chefs, a man and a woman, meticulously taste the dishes, confirming that the ingredients are seasoned properly and the rice grains possess perfect texture and consistency. A sigh of relief escapes Narumi Kuda as he hears the ingredients are also nicely mysterious in the middle, while other chefs chatter excitedly around him. Kim Bong-nam then congratulates him, revealing that Kuda has passed a test, leaving him utterly confused about what test he's referring to. The dish in question, gimbap, might appear simple, but it encompasses all the fundamentals of Korean cuisine, demanding a delicate touch and extensive knife work. Each ingredient requires different levels of heat and seasoning, all meticulously applied during preparation. Beyond taste, even the aesthetics are crucial, with the finished rolls arranged artfully. Bong-nam explains that the head chef's vote is incredibly important for deciding which dishes are served, while Kuda still ponders why he was subjected to such a test. A pan splashes loudly, the sound echoing through the kitchen. Bong-nam then turns to Lee Kang-jin, offering him some Jangjo rimbap, which he accepts with a simple acknowledgement. The rich aroma of janshi noodles, a simple yet comforting dish often served at banquets, filled the air as Lee Kang-jin and Kim Bong-nam savored each mouthful, their slurps echoing the deep satisfaction of a hearty meal. A soft burp escaped him, as Kang-jin's eyes widened in disbelief at the exquisite taste, wondering if such flavor could only be divine. With a fervent exclamation, he declared the noodles to be far beyond merely not bad, proclaiming them utterly amazing, a sentiment Kim Bong-nam acknowledged with a silent nod. Turning to his guest, Kim Bong-nam addressed Kang-jin, acknowledging that his sudden invitation must have been quite a surprise. From a short distance away, Narumi Kuda listened, his expression confirming that he was indeed just a little taken aback by the unexpected turn of events. Kim Bong-nam then shifted his gaze to Kuda, explaining that while he knew Kuda was Yangsu's friend, he hadn't realized he also cooked, which prompted him to test Kuda's skills. As he gestured with his chopsticks, Kim Bong-nam continued, revealing that Kuda's desire to make his own dish reminded him of his older brother, inspiring him to offer some guidance. He then added, with a warm smile, that Kuda was a friend to someone he considered his own son, and though it wasn't much, he wanted to send Kuda a photo to warm him up in his bed. Kuda, surprised, asked if it was a photo like Yangsu's, to which Kim Bong-nam confirmed with a chuckle, "That's right, it'll look like a photo of Yangsu." After savoring the last bite of the janshi noodles, a profound change washes over him. He chews slowly, the flavors blossoming on his tongue. Though he can't call it perfect, the sheer effort and experimentation poured into honing the skills are undeniable. Kim Bong-nam watches the reaction from the kitchen, a subtle smile playing on his lips. He then turns to Kuda, explaining that such trivial help isn't needed for someone like him, a person searching for their own path. Kuda looks down at his bandaged hand, listening intently. The chef continues, his expression softening. He advises Kuda that if he ever feels lost with his cooking, he should come to him. A warm, genuine smile spreads across Kim Bong-nam's face, a clear sign of his paternal affection. As the conversation continues, a young man named Lean questions, "Yongsu, is that really you?" While Lee Kang-jin, standing nearby, asks about Lean. Narumi Kuda, turning to his mentor, proudly declares, "Of course he is. He's my mentor." This revelation startles Asif and Lee Kang-jin, who exclaim, "Wham! I thought you were a potential successor chef asked you to make some ramen, but you were just his guest." Narumi Kuda, slightly overwhelmed, manages a quiet, "Thank you," as Kim Bong-nam extends a generous offer. "How about you close your diner and come work here as an apprentice?" Kim Bong-nam, with a warm smile, assures Lean, "We'll treat you nicely," while Lean enthusiastically adds, "Yeah, come join us." Narumi Kuda, looking at the chef's coat, hesitates. Oh, take my chef's coat." The gentle chirping of birds filled the air, a serene backdrop to the lush green foliage bathed in sunlight. Suddenly, the quiet was broken by the distinct sound of an engine, as a black car sped through the verdant landscape, its presence a stark contrast to the natural tranquility. Inside, the ride was bumpy, jostling the sleeping Narumi Kuda against Lee Kang-jin's shoulder, who remained focused on the road. Kuda stirred awake, apologizing for dozing off, while Kang-jin chuckled, remarking on the uneven terrain. Kang-jin let out a tired yawn, recalling his promise to take Kuda for a drive after their meal, but a new, urgent matter had clearly arisen. The car continued its journey, the question hanging in the air, why were they suddenly heading for a removal quote? Kang-jin's expression grew uneasy, the unexpected change in plans starting to unnerve him. He reiterated his confusion about the removal quote, wondering aloud why they were going there. Meanwhile, an older man with a kind smile, seemingly in another car or at their destination, explained that he had made the appointment in a rush, and they could see him today. As the car continues its journey, the older man in the back seat chuckles, telling his companions that they'll have to see it with their own eyes if they're going to tell Young-soo about it in their dreams. His reflection visible in the rearview mirror, he seems to be looking at something specific. Meanwhile, Narumi Kuda, still groggy from sleep, mumbles in confusion, wondering if they've arrived at a Buddhist temple. As the car pulls up to a grand temple entrance, Lee Kongjin remarks on its impressive size, noting it's much larger than any temple he knows. The older man in the back flinches, his eyes wide with surprise, exclaiming that there's no way he could have passed by the gate of the four heavenly kings. Lee Kongjin steps out of the car, explaining that Young-soo's memorial tablet is enshrined here, which is why he visits quite often. Standing before the temple, the older man suggests he can just wait and get a diagnosis here. Lee Kongjin turns to him, asking why he doesn't go pay his respects to Young-soo first. As the older man hesitates, Lee Kongjin begins to walk away, stating that he has somewhere else he needs to visit. He points towards a distant structure, indicating their destination. The temple, bathed in a soft, ethereal glow, appears before them, and Narumi Kuda reflects that Young-soo would have been happy to know a friend was visiting him. With a swift movement, they approach the entrance. Lee Kongjin then turns, walking away from the temple. As he departs, the gentle chime of wind bells echoes through the air. Inside, Narumi Kuda is confronted by rows upon rows of memorial tablets, a stark reminder that his past self, Young-soo, is truly gone, and he regrets not asking Cha Kang-ho more questions on the way there. He wishes he had learned more, perhaps even what he could have done for his friend. Lee Kongjin, now outside, removes his cap with a sigh, acknowledging the finality of the situation. His gaze settles on one particular tablet, bearing the name Kim Gon-ae. He stands before the rows of memorial tablets, a heavy silence pressing down, as he wonders which one belongs to Young-soo. A soft voice breaks the quiet, directing him to the left. And his gaze falls upon the designated tablet, a quiet, "Thank you," escaping his lips. The monk, a serene smile on his face, offers a blessing as Young-soo bows respectfully. Observing him closely, the monk notes his good deeds, to which Young-soo awkwardly replies that he is merely visiting a friend. A knowing smile plays on the monk's lips as he asks if Young-soo is one who suffers from his own good deeds. Young-soo can only respond with a confused murmur. He then proceeds to light incense sticks, the small flame flickering in the quiet temple. As they walk through the temple, Young-soo wonders if the monk truly understands his unique circumstances, especially since the monk seems to know exactly who he is. The monk continues to lead the way, his serene expression unwavering. He then turns to Young-soo, a knowing smile gracing his lips. His hands are clasped together, a gesture of deep contemplation. Standing before a golden Buddha statue, the monk's voice carries a surprising revelation, asking if Young-soo runs an afterlife diner. Young-soo is visibly startled by this unexpected knowledge, questioning how the monk could possibly know such a deeply guarded secret. The monk simply offers a serene smile, suggesting that some things are simply meant to be. Before Young-soo can fully process this, a new voice calls out from behind them, announcing the arrival of someone, likely the monk's next appointment. He sits before the head of the temple, a man of significant influence in Korean traditional medicine, his mind reeling from the monk's unexpected knowledge. Taken aback, he can only manage a surprised, "Oh me?" as the monk inquires about his presence in such a remote place. With a gentle smile, the monk reveals his purpose, explaining that he came to pay his respects to Mr. Young-soo, unable to leave without saying goodbye after his passing. The memorial tablet for Mr. Bae Young-soo stands solemnly, a quiet understanding passing between them. A new voice breaks the quiet, as Kim Bong-nam approaches, apologizing for interrupting their private moment, though the monk assures him they were just finishing their respects. Kim Bong-nam insists they continue their conversation, but a thoughtful hum from the monk suggests a shift in the atmosphere. A narration box reveals Kim Bong-nam's true reason for being there, seeking help for his mental health, a fact that causes him to sweat nervously. The monk then extends an invitation for tea, much to Kim Bong-nam's surprised delight. A gentle smile spreads across the monk's face, his eyes crinkling at the corners as he regards his young guest. He suggests there is much more to discuss, the sunlight filtering through the lush temple foliage around them. A soft breeze rustles through the trees, carrying the scent of nature through the tranquil space. Inside the traditional temple building, shelves filled with ancient texts and artifacts line the walls, bathed in a soft, ethereal glow. Narumi Kuda scratches his head, a flicker of confusion crossing his face, then peeks up at the monk, his curiosity piqued. He wonders if the monk might have been a traditional medicine doctor before embracing his current path, trying to rationalize the depth of his knowledge. The monk, however, dismisses the thought with a calm assurance, stating that such a possibility holds no particular strangeness. Still, Narumi Kuda's mind races, finding it profoundly strange that the monk possesses knowledge of the afterlife diner. He considers the possibility of the monk's spiritual sense being exceptionally keen, allowing him to perceive what others cannot, a revelation that will undoubtedly be explored further after his upcoming medical examination. The monk, with a calm demeanor, informs Lee Kong-jin that his liver and kidneys are in poor condition, prompting a surprised exclamation from him. Looking somewhat sheepish, Lee Kong-jin admits he had been wondering why he felt so tired recently. With a knowing smile, the monk remarks that his body is practically begging for treatment, adding a gentle "oh dear." Turning to examine his back, the monk declares that he will need to continuously receive treatment twice a week. A concerned Lee Kong-jin asks if he must come here twice a week, to which the monk simply reiterates, "Come here twice a week." A close-up reveals the monk's hand, holding a gleaming acupuncture needle, poised over Lee Kong-jin's arm. With a subtle glint, the needle is inserted into a small, golden cup. The monk, a faint smile playing on his lips, adds that Lee Kong-jin also needs to undergo acupuncture until he says he's better, then gives a small flick. Narumi Kuda, startled, exclaims, Master Dayun, do you really need a long needle? While Lee Kong-jin, looking equally apprehensive, wonders aloud, a long needle? A sharp intake of breath escapes Narumi Kuda, his face contorted in a grimace as the intense treatment unfolds before him, a yellow glow emanating from the procedure. With a precise, swift motion, the long needle pierces its target, eliciting a guttural scream of agony that echoes through the ethereal, glowing bamboo forest, as if the very air flutters in response. Yet, the monk's voice cuts through the pain, calm and resolute, reminding his patient that this suffering is for his own good. A man named Lee Kong-jin, from the Taejin Trading Company, answers a call while still in bed. Listening as the caller identifies himself as Yun Bu-mong, apologizing for disturbing him on his day off and mentioning a lack of resources. Lee Kong-jin, surprised, asks who told him about his day off, then quickly dismisses it as unimportant, asking how he can help. Yun Bu-mong then explains his urgent request. He needs help with a reservation for Saturday, which Lee Kong-jin readily agrees to. Lee Kong-jin confirms the meeting time for Saturday at 10:30, expressing his gratitude for the call. He then bids farewell, ending the conversation. Later, Narumi Kuda finds Master Yunho, the monk, and asks if he's still asleep. Indeed, the monk is fast asleep, snoring softly. Narumi Kuda sighs, resigned to the situation, and sits down. Narumi Kuda, still catching his breath, begins to question the monk about the afterlife diner. The monk, with a gentle swish of his robes, offers him a cup of water, asking if he would like some. Accepting the drink, Narumi Kuda reiterates his query about the diner. The monk takes a moment, reflecting, before explaining that he had made a deep connection with the diner when he was younger. Narumi Kuda listens intently, his thoughts racing as he wonders if the monk knows about the diner's true nature. The monk then reveals a startling truth, that there are more afterlife diners than just the one in Seoul, leaving Narumi Kuda utterly shocked. He elaborates, pointing to a map of Korea, that there are 2 diners in different provinces and 1 in Jeju Island. Narumi Kuda acknowledges this new information, realizing it makes sense that he couldn't handle all the ghosts in Korea on his own. The monk adds that he's heard there are similar tales of such diners from abroad as well. Still processing the implications, he presses the monk further, wondering if there are other branches like the London one. The monk, holding his cup, simply asks if he has answered all his questions. Then, with a slight shift in topic, he continues, asking how Narumi Kuda knew he worked at an afterlife diner. Narumi Kuda, surprised by the direct question, admits it's quite obvious. A soft chuckle escapes the monk, acknowledging that Narumi Kuda must possess some spiritual power to perceive such things. Narumi Kuda ponders the implications, realizing the monk's knowledge is likely a closely guarded trade secret. As the conversation deepens, a map of Korea appears, highlighting the numerous afterlife diners scattered across the country, a fact most people remain unaware of. Soon, the sounds of dishes clacking and clattering fill the air, as a meal is laid out before them. He listens intently as the monk explains that the afterlife diner is just one of many, a vast network of branches spread across the country, each one a hidden sanctuary. The monk's gaze holds a deeper meaning, suggesting there's more to his words than meets the ear. Confused by the implication, he asks for clarification, wondering what exactly the monk means by that. He ponders the monk's words, a new understanding slowly dawning on him. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts as a new figure, Lee Kong-jin, joins the table, raising a glass and a toast, declaring his gratitude for the excellent service. The monk, ever the gracious host, pours a drink for the newcomer. Observing the interaction, Kuda feels a shiver of unease, thinking that the man's presence is unsettling. Kong-jin then offers a peculiar explanation for his presence, stating that the owner insisted he drink because the food was so good, to which Kuda can only offer a hesitant acknowledgement. He watches Kong-jin closely, noticing that he isn't actually eating anything, despite his earlier praise, and wonders if he's simply not hungry. He stands frozen, a small piece of cheese still clutched in his hand, as the man he just served turns to leave, his back to the door. But before he can fully process the departure, another pair of feet steps firmly into the diner, a new customer arriving with a decisive halt. The blonde-haired man, dressed in an elegant black and gold outfit, greets him with a polite, "Excuse me." Narumi Kuda, still reeling from the previous encounter, can only manage a quiet, "Oh," as he wonders if the new arrival might be another demanding customer. The blonde-haired man walks further into the diner, his steps measured and calm. Soon, Narumi Kuda serves him a plate of stir-fried pork and pepper, the customer remarking, "This stir-fried pork and pepper is pretty good." Despite the compliment, the man doesn't touch his food, prompting Narumi Kuda to lean in and ask, "Oh, I guess you don't know Korean. Please eat." The blonde-haired man simply stares ahead, a glass in his hand, offering no response. A sigh escapes Narumi Kuda as he finally realizes, phew, oh, I can understand his Chinese. A new customer, Wang Kongjin, introduces himself with a polite bow. As Narumi Kuda processes the name, he notes that this is his first time meeting someone from China, seemingly connecting him to the previous customer. Later, seated at a table with Kim Bong-nam, Wang Kongjin explains his journey, stating he follows someone everywhere. Narumi Kuda then wonders if the elderly Elder Wang is a guardian spirit, a thought that seems to materialize the wise old man before him. Wang Kongjin clarifies his relationship, revealing he is the younger brother, not a guardian spirit, and expresses concern for his sibling. The revelation deepens as Narumi Kuda realizes the implications. Elder Wang has been deceased for 50 years, yet appears young, raising questions about the nature of their existence. A spectral image confirms the truth, showing both Wang Kongjin and Li Kongjin as ethereal figures, brothers bound by a shared, ghostly fate. A wave of empathy washes over him, imagining the profound loneliness his brother must endure. Back in the kitchen, Narumi Kuda ponders the situation, wondering if such deep concern for a brother could persist even in their spectral state, concluding that it probably would. As Wang Kongjin prepares a dish, he muses aloud about the reason for his lingering presence, a question that has weighed on him. He admits to not being entirely certain, but a feeling persists, a deep concern for his brother that has kept him wondering about the kind of person he truly is and his thoughts all this time. It is this very worry, he realizes, that has tethered him to this place for so long. Narumi Kuda, observing him intently, asks if he remembers anything at all from his past life. As Wang Kongjin serves him a meal, he confesses that the more he learns, the hazier his memories become, leaving him feeling adrift. This feeling resonates with Narumi Kuda, reminding him of Yerim and her friends, who also seem to be searching for something lost. Wang Kongjin offers a small dish, thanking him with a gentle smile, stating that his current existence is more than enough. Suddenly, a hand slams down on the table, a decisive gesture from Narumi Kuda. Looking up at Wang Kongjin, who is now reaching for something high above, Narumi Kuda declares his desire to know if there's anything he would truly like to taste again.